Hey, welcome to the 401st episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is an awesome supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. Last week, I did an Off My Mind episode about superheroes and what's the best day job. How can they earn money? What kind of job can they have where they can just basically have to take off at any time, where they're always on call as a superhero, right? So how do you keep a job where you have to just run out to save lives and all that? And sometimes talk about comic books, etc., and all that stuff. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee, or that's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. For some reason, when I say heck, it sounds a little weird. What is going on this week? This week we have Thunderbolts asterisk, and so we have the new Marvel movie, and spoiler, I liked it. We also have The Last of Us. We have Doctor Who, and we have Star Wars Andor. Okay. So last week I did, as you know, grumble, Tony grumble. Disney is dropping 3 episodes every week. Last week, I talked about 201, 202, 2 episodes. So I was, as I watched the 3rd episode, and I heard some stuff about this. So basically, they're dropping them in 3s, and apparently, like, each 3 go together. So, because I was looking at the thumbnail for the next one, I was like, oh, Saw Gerrera. Cool, but that's obviously not dealing with anything that's going on in these episodes. And as I'm watching the 3rd episode, it's still the same characters, same situations, and moving things along or whatever. And I'm like, So what apparently is happening is between every 3, it's like there's like a year in between. So my debate was, well, if I do episode 3 and 4, that's going to be a little disjointed. But at the same time, I don't think next week I could do 4, 5, and 6. Maybe? I don't know. So as I was wrapping things along, I ended up only watching one. I only watched episode 3. Now, I started watching episode 4, and part of the reason why is I planned on watching episode 4 Thursday night after watching Thunderbolts. My showing of Thunderbolts was earlier, so I was like, I'll get home in that. But then the movie was pushed back. I get to the theater, and they're like, yeah, sorry, it's going to be, I think it was like an hour and a half or something like that. So I'm just like, okay, so I guess I'll go grab something to eat and then come back. And so that's my excuse. Only one episode. And now we're also getting to the point where I'm going to be behind. I mean, I guess I can keep covering it. We'll talk about it, because I know people are liking it, right? And I don't know if it's just a vocal minority, but I'm hearing some people like, this is the best Star Wars ever. This is the best thing that they've been doing. We'll see. So that's this week's episode. And part of me, I want to kind of keep things tight and just not have it drag on. I haven't really heard in the early days of the show, people were like, yeah, long episodes, do 4 hours. I'm like, seriously? So I don't know if that's still the case, if people like the long podcasts. I mean, I'm assuming you have other things to listen. I don't know what you're listening. What is your listening schedule? I mean, are you listening at work? Are you able to listen at work? Are you listening during your commute? Do you have I don't know. But let's move on with the show. So that's what's happening. With the news, it doesn't seem like there's a great deal of news. With Thunderbolts, one of the things I think it was like IGN reported that the Thunderbolts breaks records with its end credits or post credit I was like, what? So apparently the post-credit scene, so the scene at the end, so stay until the very, very end of Thunderbolts asterisk. And it's apparently the longest one. It's the longest post-credit scene in a movie. This is not including the Hawkeye post-credit scene, which was the Rogers musical thing. So it's like 2 minutes and 54 seconds. So it's like almost 3 minutes. So you definitely need to watch that. Now, apparently, what's interesting is Jake Schreier, who directed the movie, he says that he didn't film the post-credit scene, and it was shot on a Doomsday set that they filmed it. So yeah, so that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to even say who's in it, what's it about, or anything like that. And he said it was very last minute. It was he was like, it might have been filmed like about a month ago, and he was there. He was he watched him film it. He just didn't do it himself. So then the question is, did the Russos film it? But there's been no like full confirmation on that. So that was interesting that they did it at the last minute. So was there just, when he was directing the movie, was there like no plans for it, or did they know that maybe we'll add something later, or we'll see. We're thinking about it. Now, as far as the movie, I guess I can talk about this later or whatever. Yeah, I'll talk about the box office later. But there's been talk about, people are complaining about Zemo. Like, oh, Daniel Bruhl, they should have had Zemo in the movie. So spoiler, he's not in the movie, obviously. I mean, I don't think that's a spoiler. But what Jake Schreier said, he's like, there was never a version of the script that he was going to be in it. It was just, it's not going to happen. Just because it's called Thunderbolts, they're taking a name, but it's not like it was in the comics, where it was the Masters of Evil posing as heroes and tricking everyone, and then things kind of evolved from there. So whatever the case is, will we see Baron Zemo again? Maybe, but and I'm totally fine with that. I'm not a big Zemo fan. I thought Daniel Bruhl did some interesting things with evolving the character, or giving us a character in a different light. But yeah, I'm totally fine with that. Jeremy Renner. So there's been talk of Hawkeye season 2 on Disney Plus. A second season of the show, but apparently Jeremy Renner was only offered half the pay that he got for the first season, and obviously he says it's an insult, because he said that he's like, well, it's going to take me twice the amount of work for half the money and 8 months of my life, essentially, to do it for half the amount. I don't know what he means by it's going to take him twice the amount of work. Is that due to his injury from the snowplow? I don't know about that. So, is he going to have to work harder? Because, yeah, I just don't know. So that sucks. That's a bummer. And, a lot of people are like, oh, Disney sucks. They're not doing that. They're insulting, whatever. My big question is, how big of a role was he going to have in it? Because it always felt like, if we got a season 2, it's going to be more about Kate Bishop, because it felt like a lot of the show was building her up and setting her up to take over the mantle. And I don't know if that's the case. So what was the original plan for season 2? Was it going to be the same thing, the two of them working together, or is he just there in a support role, or I don't know, because when you look at the original Avengers, it's just like him and Thor, or I guess Banner. Like, what's Banner doing? So I don't know. And if that's the case, if it's less screen time, less dialogue, or whatever, then I would say, yeah, you shouldn't get paid the same amount. But if he's saying 8 months, I mean, is it because they don't? It's like 8 months total, but you're not working for 8 months. It's like, okay, we need you just Wednesday and Thursday, and then we'll get back to you about the following week, and then when we're ready to film, because there could be it's not like, okay, you're only going to be in this like 30% amount of time you were in the first season, but they're not going to film his 30% all at once. So it would be spread out over whatever the 6 episodes or whatever he would do, and I don't know what the answer is. So that sucks, and I would like to hope. I would like to think that it's not Disney just all of a sudden being, yeah, we're just going to pay you less. I would want to think that he was going to have a smaller role. Now, is Hawkeye Season 2 still going to happen? Some people are saying, yeah, it's going to happen with just Kate Bishop. Maybe he won't be in there. But I don't know. I mean, because I guess he's still open to doing the character. He likes the character and all that. It's just it was an insult to him. But hopefully they can sort this out or whatever. Or maybe he just does a cameo and I don't know. But I do have to say, if he's not doing the same amount of work, he should not get the same amount. And I mean, yeah, that's just how I feel. And I know you can say, well, he's one of the original Avengers. We should definitely pay to. I don't know. It's such a tricky situation. Now, the annoying thing about the Star Wars Andor stuff. So aside from that, because there's something that happens in Episode 3, which I will talk about today, and I saw headlines about it, people knew, or the headlines, news reports about it, and I'm like, dang it. And there's something that happens, which I don't want to spoil it for you, but we'll just say in Episode 6, to narrow it down, there is someone has been recast, and a different character. So it's not like all of a sudden Cassian Andor is being played by someone else. No, it's not that. So we see someone in Episode 6, and all of a sudden it's well, I'll just say, because it's in the news, Benjamin Bratt shows up. It's like, wait, what? And the reason it's simple, because the other person, which I won't say because that will spoil it, apparently they just couldn't make it work. They tried, but the other actor is busy. I don't know doing what. I haven't looked up and haven't heard of anything, but they just couldn't get it to work. So it wasn't like, oh, this person sucks, or it wasn't like this person wanted more money, so we're gonna pay Benjamin Bratt less. It's just it didn't work out apparently. That stinks, but the show must go on, type of thing. And if, as long as you wouldn't recast the lead character, one of the main characters. If it's just a side character that's going to pop in a scene or two or whatever, then okay. But it's not ideal. But you just go with the flow and just yeah. Just with DC, apparently maybe I've heard different. I haven't heard anything last couple of days, but there's reports that Sergeant Rock. Why are they making a Sergeant Rock movie? They're saying, well, apparently they're not going to be making a Sergeant Rock movie. Something happened, and it's not clear what, because originally it was going to be Daniel Craig playing Sergeant Rock. But I think, did he back out to do Knives Out 3? I don't know if that's true or not. But Daniel Craig couldn't do it. So then, whatever, finagled financial deal, this, that, Colin Farrell is going to play Sergeant Rock. And which is weird because Colin Farrell is a penguin, but different universes, and you can't even tell. So Colin Farrell is going to play Sergeant Rock. But now, it's like, it may not be happening. And I saw like 2 reports, and is there something about, well, they need to film outside, and I don't know if it's when they'd be able to finally film, the weather maybe wouldn't be right. Is that what it? I don't know. But then there was another like update that, well, maybe it's still going to happen. I don't know. And Warner Brothers hasn't commented on it. They haven't said anything about it. You would think, hey, people are saying that this movie's canceled, and so we should say it's not. But I don't know. And like the reports, I saw a couple who's like, DC Films? DC Films has a major problem with their movie. It's like, they don't have a major problem. You know where I'm going, right? They have a sergeant problem, a sergeant disaster, not a major disaster. Sergeant Rock, Sergeant Disaster? No. All right. Okay. So who knows? But with Clayface, which I don't know why they're making a Clayface movie. They're saying, so Clayface was supposed to come out September 11th, 2026. It starts production December 1st, 2025, which that's kind of surprising. Maybe they're going to start production less than a year before the movie is going to be released. And the reason I say it's surprising is obviously they're going to film it. Obviously, they're going to film it. But there's going to be a lot of post-production because I imagine there's got to be a CG involved. If we're talking about Clayface and oozing clay or whatever form, unless, he's spending a lot of time as an actor or this or whatever, and, maybe they don't have to, maybe there's not going to be like a big brown oozing pile of poo Clayface walking around, or, maybe, I don't know. So we have that, but that is still apparently happening. There is a rumor, so I'm kind of like at the end of the news almost. Spider-Man 4, that possibly J.K. Simmons is going to be returning. I mean, that would make sense. I think what it was is someone asked him. He's like, I will not answer that. I won't spoil yes or no if I'm going to be there or whatever. So hopefully they can make that happen. And there's also reports that I forget his name, the guy that plays Flash. He's expressed interest that he would like to play Agent Flash. He thinks that would be cool and everything. But of course he would, because that means he gets his own movie or possibly his own franchise. So who wouldn't? I don't know. I'm trying to remember how this Flash was, because was he a jock at all, or was he just like a bully? And it didn't seem like he was much of a bully. I don't know. Maybe we'll have that. And then the last bit of news is it was a Hollywood Reporter says that Ryan Reynolds is exploring Deadpool ideas, like Deadpool and X-Men. Because, he has said, he's like, there probably won't be, I don't plan on doing another Deadpool solo movie anytime soon. But he's like, I am open to being like a supporting character or, being an ensemble or something like that. And it kind of makes sense because, with 3 movies now, right? What could there be for Deadpool? Because of the character and the hijinks and the humor, I feel like, and I'm sure this is the case, there's probably only so much that you can do to carry a movie, because then it's either going to become repetitive or annoying or whatever. So if he is a character with some others, because even if you look at like Deadpool and Wolverine, it wasn't solo. And even, a little bit with Cable, So he's probably like it's better with other characters involved. So he's apparently looking into or exploring ideas with other X-Men characters, possibly 3 or 4 characters, and give them a chance to shine in the spotlight or whatever, since we're introducing X-Men, and he would just again be the supporting player and that. But this is separate from the official X-Men movie that's supposed to introduce everything. So I guess it would happen after. So that would be cool. It would be a matter what characters are we talking about? And that's where it's interesting, because when you're saying Deadpool and the X-Men, it could be like Gambit and maybe Cyclops, or old school 20th Century Fox X-Men. Or are you talking about new X-Men, which, that's how it kind of sounded letting them shine, rather than Halle Berry's finally, finally got arranged things. So I don't know what's going on with Halle Berry, because, they're saying she's not going to be in Doomsday, and it feels like there's something up, and I don't know if it's a money thing or what's happening, but we'll have to see. I'm always down for more Deadpool. I thought I heard something about, maybe it was a rumor that they're saying Deadpool and Thor are going to team up to save Loki or something like that, which that to me, it sounds like just someone making up stuff. Maybe this would happen. I'm just going to say this and take a gamble that I'm going to be right. And then I could tell everyone, I told you so. And then if you're wrong, you're like, oh, they changed their mind. I don't know. But hopefully you don't change your mind about listening to this episode and you keep listening. But that is going to be the news for the week. With comic books. Apparently at Dynamite, I guess Thunderbolts 15 came out, and I missed it. I did not read that, so I will have to get caught up on that. At Image, I thought I read most everything that I'm reading, but I apparently didn't either. Let's see. So there's G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, Duke, one shot. This was written and drawn by Wes Craig, so that was cool. there was moments where it's this is like deadly class. It's like Marcus is back. He's like, I can imagine, he was supposed to be, he went to the school for assassins and everything, and it's like, maybe he's going out there, and not that Duke is an assassin, but going behind enemy lines and stuff like that. So I enjoyed that. I could appreciate that because I'm a fan of Wes Craig's art and everything. The problem I had I think I got the gist of what was happening here, but because this was another silent episode, it's a little vague at times, and so I'm looking. It's like, is what's happening what I think is happening? And it could be. I feel like I'm just over analyzing where he's going after someone and there's a picture and so I think I got it, but not really sure. Oh wait, Department of Truth came out? That, according to Previews World, April 30th, Department of Truth 31? That doesn't make sense because looking at the official list from in an email I got from Image, it doesn't list that. So I don't know which is true. Okay, then Rockefellers number 5 came out, apparently. How did I miss that? That seems weird. That doesn't make sense. Radiant Black 33, I need to get caught up on that. And then You'll Do Bad Things number 2. So this, I recommend this series. It's weird. What I like about it is, who knows what's happening, right? This is one of those things, and because it's an Image comic. It's it's its own universe. So there's no telling what's going to happen. So this is written by Tyler Boss, and we have this writer, and he's trying to write his second book. He's kind of stuck with that, but then there's some bad things happening. Like there's like these killings happening, and it's like, what's his connection to that? And that's where it's. Yeah, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I highly recommend it. And I know that's probably like the worst sell or worst. So here's a synopsis for maybe I should look the synopsis for the first issue, because they did do a second printing of that. So the first issue, it's been 10 years since the release of He Came In With a Smile, the true crime smash hit that chronicled the brutal murders committed by the nursery rhyme killer. But in a decade since its release, its author Seth Holmes hasn't produced another title. He wants to write a story with a happy ending, but every time his fingers clack across the keyboard, it always ends with the character's death. Worse yet, these tales of blood and barbarity that flow so freely from Seth's mind are starting to happen in real life. So that where I think that's kind of interesting. It's like, what is that connection? What does that mean? In issue 2, as the bodies start to pile up around New York City, Detective Bentley and Maslow are looking for any answers to the questions of what connects these victims. Seth attends a signing in Q&A for Smile and meets an unlikely companion who may just help solve his writer's block. So, yeah, so we have that. So, I recommend you check that out. At Marvel, we had One World Under Doom, Doom Academy, number 3. And as much as I'm going to flat out say I hate this Doom crossover, this One World Under Doom. I am not enjoying it at all. But this Doom Academy is fine because for all intents and purposes, it's basically just Strange Academy. They're just at another location. So they're in Latveria. There's other students, other people there. And I can't say that I love this, but it's we got one of the students, I forget her name, she got trapped in a book. Zoe, I think it was. And started trying to figure out where'd she go, where she disappeared to, and it was like, how do you just automatically guess that someone's in a book, but you hear about you see the book, so there's reasons. So these other characters are trying to figure that out, and while Zoe's in the book, she came across another student who had been trapped in there before. Can she trust her? Because and that's all I'll say. But because it's not really Doom centric so much, so that's why it's fine. There was Doom's Division number 2, and these are the characters. I have no idea who they are because I'm not reading these. I forget what the team was called before, but yes, I didn't read that. Fantastic Four number 31. It says Fantastic 2 on the cover. This is another One World Under Doom. This was okay. So what's happening here is, I don't know if it was last issue, it might have been last issue or the issue before. Doom decides to cure the Thing as a kind of like an in-your-face type of thing. He's like, this is something that Richards never could do, but I could do it like that. And now he's Ben Grimm. And it was hard for him. It was like really weird. Because he couldn't be a hero anymore. He didn't ask for it this time, which is ironic because this is what he's wanted for the longest time. But maybe he's just come to terms with it. But what's weird because we saw in Secret Wars he was suddenly changing and he wasn't like as miserable, and because here it's like he was almost like depressed that he wasn't a Thing anymore. And there was a moment like someone's getting mugged and he's like, I'm going to go and stop it. And he got like really injured. So it just felt like it was like really, really drastic, reaction or whatever. But now the other thing that came up before, and they mentioned it in the issue, I forget when it was, is when it's like their powers, I don't like this, but it's like their powers depend on each other. So if one person loses their powers, so like with Ben losing his powers, that is going to affect the rest of the Fantastic Four, which doesn't make sense. It seems silly to me, in my opinion. Seems silly that the powers would be connected that way, because if with that, what happened when Ben was on Battle World during Secret Wars? I guess technically he still had his powers. He was just able to change back and forth to Ben Grimm whenever he wanted. But must be times when someone else has lost their powers, right? Did Ben ever lose his powers before, or Johnny? So, yeah, they're dealing with that. Godzilla versus Spider-Man. This some odd choices made here, and I was okay with them. The main thing is, you see on the cover, we're talking symbiote. We were talking about Black Suit Spider-Man. So this is before Amazing Spider-Man 258. There are other familiar instances or whatever, because this was before 257. That was 257, right? When Mary Jane reveals that she knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And she goes to Peter's apartment, and he's like, "Oh, citizen, what are you doing in that apartment? I will save you because Godzilla almost smashed the place." And she's like, "Dude, I know it's you." And he's also kind of dating Black Cat at the same time, so it's like it gets a little awkward. And so we have that era of Spider-Man, which was kind of neat. And then we got Godzilla. Now, think about this: we have Godzilla, and if specifically we have symbiote suit Spider-Man, what do you think might happen? And if I'm giving you as much credit as I think you should have and more, it happens, and it's kind of ridiculous. It's like, wait, what? Yeah. So I don't want to spoil it, but I basically did. I think. Hell Hunters number 5 came out. I am no way going to read that. Now, we had Kid Juggernaut discover the origin of Marvel's new hero. I'm like, who the heck is Kid Juggernaut? What is going on here? And then I looked on previews or the synopsis, and it's like oh, this is a 6-issue miniseries, and Marvel Voices Infinity comic 1 through 6 in print for the first time. And the origin story of one of the hottest new characters in the Marvel Universe, Kid Juggernaut of the Avengers Academy. I don't remember ever hearing about Kid Juggernaut. How did I am I blanking? Because Avengers Academy, I read Avengers Academy, I think. I read all of it. Just before his mysterious death, Justin's father sent a package. But so I started reading this. I was like, okay, I'll check this out. I'll get, look at the issue. And it's talking about who's this Justin, whatever. I think his name was Justin, right? Yeah. And his grandfather was Juggernaut. But there's no relation to Kane Marco whatsoever. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm trying to read this. It's like, I don't know who any of these characters are. And I stopped reading because I was like, this isn't Kane Marco Juggernaut. This is another Juggernaut. And I'm like, I'm confused. So I don't know how this fits into continuity because I honestly don't recall. I don't know if I've read. I don't remember Kid Juggernaut in Avengers Academy. And I don't know what's happening. NYX number 10. Blah. I don't know what it is. Well, I think I know what it is. But I couldn't get into this issue, which is weird because I love Kamala. I love Wolverine, Laurie Kinney. And even, is it Sophie Cuckoo that's here? I've been enjoying her here, but I just don't care about what's happening here, and it's so weird. And this is the last issue, so I'm like, oh darn, which I hate that I said. I don't know what happened. Red Hulk issue 3. I ended up not finishing this. I started reading it. It was actually, I think might have been like one of the last Marvel comics I read this week. Because of the Doom stuff, that was just, it's just like, I'm just so tired of Doom, and that's all we're getting because that's the current crossover or whatever you want to call it. And it's just like, I just don't care. Yeah, and we have that. Rogue Savage Land, I'm not reading that because I know it's not the case, but I just feel it's exploitive. And I'm not like a prude or anything, but I just feel like it just seems kind of silly. But what do I know? Then I didn't read the Star Wars. We had a One World Under Doom Thunderbolts. Is it just Thunderbolts, right? This is number 3. And this was okay, Thunderbolts versus the original Thunderbolts. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. But not really the original Thunderbolts because Citizen V is not Baron Zemo. And they sing these, it's like, wait, how can some of these Thunderbolts be there? And they're totally siding with Doctor Doom. So it's like, what is happening? Are they brainwashed? And they're fighting, and it was okay. And it's just weird. They're calling Bucky Revolution, and he's got a new arm. Where did he get this new arm from? How did I miss that? He's got like a liquid metal arm. Like what? Like what kind of magic sorcery is this? The T-1000 dropped it off for him. I just no. I mean, it's one thing that he's got super strength with or whatever with that arm. But to make it liquid metal, I don't like that. That's. I mean, then and the thing is, because if you have an arm for it to work, because it has to be tied to your synapses or whatever for your brain to connect. It's like I need to wiggle my fingers and I need to bend my arm and my wrist, and so I feel like the technology that is asking a lot of itself, and now all of a sudden you can also will it to change shapes. No. TVA, Time Variance Authority. I didn't read that, even though I love Spider-Gwen, and we got Scarlet Witch on the cover. That could be cool, but yeah, I didn't read that. Ultimate Spider-Man number 16. Holy crap! I was like, what? So this comic, this is how you do it, and I will say this is the best Ultimate title that we have, and it's crazy. Jonathan Hickman is doing some bold things, and I really applaud what he is doing and what Marvel is, whether, and again, is it all him? Is it editorial, him and maybe it's all, I don't know, but whoever is all involved, and the creators and the art and everything. I just love that we have Spider-Man. Well, even backing up, I love that we have Spider-Man and Mary Jane married and they have kids. And then it's like, okay, this is going to be our flagship character in the Ultimate Universe. This is our Ultimate Spider-Man now. And he is married. And he has kids. And that is okay. Whereas before, it's like, Peter Parker can't be married because people can't relate to that. Which is like, who the heck is buying comics? There are people that are at least old enough, maybe they're not married, but they're at least old enough to be married. It's not like the little kids are spending $5 on a comic. So where are you going to get $5 from? And on top, $5 times however many books are out that they might want to read. So I love all that. But then it's crazy because it starts off with Norman Osborn's dead. He gets killed right from the beginning. And then what happens to Harry, that's not so great. And because Harry and Peter got kidnapped by Craven and a couple other members of the Sinister Six, and no more secret identity. Say, this is nuts that you are going there. How can you have someone like Craven, a hunter? I mean, well, I guess he knew, but to have these enemies know Spider-Man's secret identity when he has a wife and kids. It's like you can't say, "Oh, I'm gonna defeat you and have the police arrest you," because then all they're gonna be like, "Oh, guess what? I know who Spider-Man is," or you just got to call anyone. And so they're doing some interesting things, and they just totally like reverse some stuff and add new twists, and it's just like holy crap. So I applaud, man. There's just some crazy thing. There's one pretty big development here. I'm not 100% on board with it. You read the issue, you can probably figure out what I'm talking about. The big, huge. There's kind of like there's almost like two big reveals here, two twist reveals or something like that. But the main one, holy crap! What This has been what? But I am totally intrigued with it. I can accept it. What did I say? I'm not crazy about it. I don't think I'm crazy about it, but I'm so curious where this is going to go. And I don't even know what this means for what's happening. So what's next? But this is, yeah, I love this book. Let me say that. Weapon X-Men, nope, not reading that. Isn't that ending? I think they said it got canceled, which I don't know. Wolverine and Kitty Pryde. I was excited about this. It's Chris Claremont. Damian Cosiero is doing the art. So this is taking place. I'm not sure exactly when it's taking place. If it's after was it Shadowcat or Kitty Pryde and Wolverine? No, Kitty Pryde and Wolverine. I don't know if this is happening after issue 6 or if it's happening somewhere in between. I mean, it was a cool moment in comics. I mean, I love that. I'm a little confused where this is taking place. Let's see what the synopsis says. Kitty Pryde near lost her soul to Ogun. Yeah, so it's like after X-Men Path to Good. All new adventure set in the aftermath of Chris Claremont's legendary Kitty Pryde and Wolverine. Let me see. Okay, so this is right after. Wait, no, multiple characters' first appearance in this issue? What? Okay. It was fine. I think part of the problem is there's like just some resentment happening, and so there's some fallout. Kitty's still dealing with the Ogun brainwashing stuff, and Wolverine's like pushing, like training her because she's got the abilities, so he wants to keep doing it. But then there's also some Carmen, Kitty's dad. He says something about Professor X. I'm like, wait, what? Where's that come from? So yeah, there's some. But I think they kind of explain like why we never heard that before.
but it's like, okay. So, yeah, I wanted to like this more, but I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to. Over at DC, I mean, unless I missed something, I think there's only like 5 books that came out. So we had Batman, Superman, World's Finest, and this, it's continuing like the Gorilla Grodd stuff that we've been seeing. I just, yeah, I'm not loving it. This issue wasn't as bad. It wasn't as heavy, but Gorilla Grodd, he talks to like some of the villains, and he's like, "We all suck. We're miserable. We're gonna get beat. So we need to go in the future." And so it's like things get a little tricky. The last page, I will say, there's like a what the crap, what is going on here? So there's that, but I'm not super crazy about this. I don't know if it's just because it's Gorilla Grodd, but yeah, because you look at like the Legion of Doom, they kind of suck. So it's like you have all these powerful villains that cause all these problems, but even together they can't do anything. So I don't know what that says about them. Detective Comics 2025 annual. This was written by there's the main story was by Al Ewing, and then Joshua Hill Fialkov, who I love. He's such a great person, human being. He writes the backup story. So the main story, it started off, I was like, oh, I'm kind of intrigued with this. But then as it's going along, it started losing me a little bit. So it starts off, Batman breaks into this like impenetrable apartment, it's like high security and all this stuff like that. And the owner's been murdered, knife in the back. And written on the floor, it's like, Batman, don't solve my murder. So like he wrote it as he's dying, but Batman's like, why would he do that? You see, I mean, there's some other side. I won't give away everything, but he's trying to figure out what's happening, and there's like no fingerprints like in the kitchen. It says like, wait, does he have a kitchen staff? Like what's going on? And he finds some other stuff. It leads them to to going to like London of all places. And at one point he's like, "Oh, these are angels I'm fighting here. Like I'm just gonna fight them because I've read about different things." And yeah, and then so I think I mean that was that's not the problem. I mean his reaction, he was so nonchalant, which I guess he should be because he's seen so much. But like shortly after that, and it's just started losing me, and then so. It wasn't super crazy. The backup story, or whatever. It's this kid who is a huge Batman fan. Some kids, I don't remember, did they die or did they get sick? But he's come to the conclusion that Scarecrow is attacking his school. That he's somewhere in there, but people are like, and like, why would Scarecrow care about the school? Because like the other kids make fun of him because he's like the Batman Junior League fan club or something. Yeah, but one of the kids like, because they think there's like food poisoning going on or something like that, and some kids like, when is he gonna get poisoned and die? It's like that sucks. You suck. But yeah, that's it. Yeah. Then it was Batman shows up obviously, and then you got that. So that's all I read. There was a Batman Long Halloween. I don't remember the last issue. I need to get caught up on that. Question all along the Watchtower came out, and the Power Company Recharge. I haven't read any of that. But that is it. That is going to be comic books for the week.
All right, Doctor Who Season 2, Episode 3, The Well. I've been a little on the fence with this season so far. While there's some things that I'm not super crazy about. This episode was, I feel like it was a little dark in a way, and that kind of changed the tone a bit. It kind of made things a little more serious, and it's I don't know if I can really explain it. So it wasn't with the last episode, it was all fun. It's like, oh, it's a cartoon bad guy, but this was something. Let's get to it. And there was a callback to David Tennant. I forget the episode, the name of it, and I'm not going to look it up because I feel like that's cheating. The Doctor and Belinda are in the TARDIS. It's like right after the last episode. They're still in their 1952 outfit. They brace, flips a switch, and he yells in frustration, "No, no, no, no!" And Belinda's like, "So if we can't get home and the TARDIS isn't broken, what does that mean? Planet Earth is broken, or 2025 is broken? Have we been invaded or hit by a meteor or swatted by a giant moth?" And he's like, "Imagine a moth that big." And she's like, "No, but really, because my parents are back home." She's like, "And this is Friday. They go to this bar with their mates, and my dad sings, and everyone laughs, and the whole room ends up singing. Is that still happening, Doctor? Are they safe?" He doesn't know. He's like, "I hope so." And she's like, "You hope?" And he gives her like a big hug. And he's like, "I will meet your mom and dad, and I will make your dad laugh, and your mom can," he's like, "your mom can whistle at my behind, and I will sing. I will do the singing. That is a promise." She's like, "You can't promise." He's like, "Look at me. I can. I will. I do." And then the TARDIS like shakes, it lands. So they're going to go outside, take another Vindicator reading, because each signal brings them closer to home. And she's like, "Where have we landed?" He's like, "Oh, 500,000 years in the future." She's like, "We have jumped, baby." She's like, "That's massive." And she's like, "Do we still exist? Human beings? Is there a human race?" And he's like, "There's always a human race." And she's like, "Do we still speak English?" And I'm glad they mentioned this, because he's like, the TARDIS translates. Because basically there's supposed to be like some translate thing. So as long as I don't know what the radius is, but as long as you're in proximity of the TARDIS, it automatically translates for you, which is very super convenient. But it also makes sense. Why does everyone speak with an English accent? 99.9% of the people. She's like, "Do we need to go change our clothes?" And he's like, "Girl, you are beginning to enjoy this." So they change, and they do like I think it was a Britney Spears song they play. So they go out. They have like futuristic black jumpsuits. And then they exit, and they're on the ship. This alarm's going off. There's all these people lined up, like all these like soldiers, whatever. They're putting on like space helmets that are like right in front of them. And then they're told to jump. And they're like, "Jump." The big hatch opens up. You just see space. And they jump out, and they're like screaming. And that's when like the opening intro. So Belinda's like screaming, and it's like that. Then the Doctor, he like kind of, they're still falling, and he's like, "It's okay." So the students have these like kind of thrusters on them, and it's like kind of slows them down. So they land on the planet, some planet, and he turns on the Vindicator, and then he's like, "Oh, but look at this." They look at like the view. It's like all these purple whatever colors and stars and planets and stuff like that. But then the other soldiers who jumped with them, they cock or turn on their blaster rifles on them. So the commander or whatever, she tells them, "Explain themselves immediately." The Doctor introduces himself, and he's like, "Who's your commanding officer back at base?" And she's like, "Squadron leader Chimchapa," or something like that. And he pulls out his psychic paper, so it's another callback. It's good to see he still has it. He's like, "Well, I am higher than Chimchapa, see?" And Belinda's confused because she doesn't know what psychic paper is. And then so this lady's like, "Apologies, I'm platoon leader Shia Castellian," so I'm just going to call her Shia. She's like, "I was not informed of your presence." And she just jumps in. She's like, "That's the point. We're like mystery shoppers." And they're like, "Do they even know what a mystery shopper is?" And they just ignore it. And she's like, "Now we just need to vindicate." And then Doctor's like, "Done, babes. We're vindicated." And then Belinda's like, "Now you can return us to our blue box, which is in your ship thing in the sky immediately." And then she's like, "But how do we do that?" And they don't say anything. She's like, "Oh, this is a test." And they're both like, "Yes, yes." So she gives the number of the planet. It's like 6767 or something like that. So the atmosphere is charged with galvanic radiation. And so it would strip the engines bare. The ship needs to slide down at retrograde velocity. And the Doctor's like, "Which would take how long?" And she's like, 5 hours. And Belinda's like, "Can we breathe for 5 hours?" And she's like, "You can breathe in that suit for 5 months." Belinda's like, "Correct answer." She's like, "Good." The Doctor's like, "So imagine I don't know anything about this mission. Tell me what you're doing here, because galvanic radiation is tough. Nothing can live on a rock like this. But you've traveled all this way. What for?" And then they're looking down, kind of like this crater, like a hill or whatever. there's Colony Base 15. So she says it's basic mining operation with a mercury drop line, stripping a layer of carbon-46. 15 days ago, all contact was lost. The base went silent. And doctor's like, how many colonists? So like 35. And then Shia asks another if there's any signs of life. So I'm going to call this lady, I think her name is Mo or something. I'm just calling her Scanner because she's scanning things. So it doesn't matter what her name is. It's just like nothing, no movement. They can't scan for heartbeats because of the radiation. So there's still hope. Shia says, well, hope is irrelevant. They advance, they go in the facility, they remove their helmets, and then they're like, any threat to live, they have permission to shoot to kill. So Belinda asks the doctor if the place is uninhabited, could something live underground? He says it's impossible, that the radiation soaks through everything. So the whole world is cold, lifeless, it's all dead. They've been like removing parts of their armor, whatever, like on top of their jumpsuit. This dude, I think his name is Cassio, he tells them that they should stay suited, and the doctor, so I'm going to call this guy Babes. Wait, is this guy? Anyways, so to this guy, the doctor's like, oh, I'm just not loving the look, Babes. I come in peace. And then the Babes, he's like, it's not appropriate to call me Babes. And he's like, okay, hun. Then this other dude comes in from this other room, says they have a body. So Belinda rushes, forward, and someone barks like, don't touch them. And Belinda's like, no, but they, might still be alive. And she's like, okay, no, sorry. She's like, they've been dead for a while. And the doctor's like, I'd say he's broken his neck or broken everything. So they look further into place. They see another body. The doctor says that this person was shot in the back. There's like laser fire, so there must have been a fight, but why? Belinda turns around. She sees another with a broken neck. Doctor sees another with laser fire. Belinda notices like all the mirrors are broken, like every single room. There's no mirrors. And Shai's like, you're right, because she's in this other room, it's the same thing. And she's like, half have been shot, half of them have been assaulted. She's like, what sort of fight is that? They search some more. Belinda's like, what if no one's alive? Like, what will we do? Babes, he says, what they should have done in the first place, nuke the site from orbit. So this guy's like, he's a piece of work. Scanner, the scanner lady, she detects a heartbeat. So there's a single heartbeat in the next room. Belinda says it could be a survivor. Shia says it could be the killer. And the doctor's like, it could be both. So he turns like the turn thing on a door. He opens a big metal door. There's a lady like sitting on a crate, and so she's deaf, and because it's not that it matters, but it's cool to see something like that. She signs and speaks. She's like, "Can you take me home?" And the doctor signs. He's like, "Honey, we can do whatever you want." And Shai's like, "Do not approach." So this lady says that she has a daughter on Mon Paso, and she's with her granddad, and she's 2 years old. It's like, you leave your 2-year-old at home? She's like, I just want to see her. So here's a kicker. Remember that, 2 years old. They look at it, there's a body on the floor. This lady's like, that's Sal. She's like, I shot her, all right, I did it, but she was going to kill me. And then Babes turns this little, he has this like shield text, it's like a holo thing. You hit a button on your chest, this little like rectangular holo thing pops up, and then it's got the text going on there. So it's kind of like closed caption, but on there. He's like, you, eyes on me all time, understand? And she says, yes. And then he kneels, picks up the blaster that she must have used. It's on the ground. The doctor is like, asks who she is. She says her name is Alice Fenley. So it's interesting because the Alice is Aliss. So interesting, futuristic spelling, I don't know. She's like, I just want to go home. Scanner lady says that she can confirm that she's on the manifest. She's 28. She's a citizen of Man Paso, one daughter. The doctor signs something without speaking, and she replies. And Shai's like, I need you to keep everything audible. No private conversations. So at first I was like, that's a little suspicious. What's that about? And I guess it's nothing. He's just comforting her or whatever her. So doctor's like, he says, no matter the year, sign language always makes some people paranoid. So there's our little message for the people of today, because that is probably true. So he introduced himself. He says, she's like, I don't need a doctor. I just want to go home. And Shia asks her to tell them what happened, why she killed this woman. And Alice says that they all went mad. Every single person just went mad, and it happened so fast. And the doctor's like, but not you? She doesn't answer directly. And she's just like, but that's Sal. She was my friend. She was going to kill me with her bare hands. She's like, I've never fired a gun in my life, but what else could I do? I'm just a cook. I've been here for 12 months. So she was there so she left her daughter when her daughter was a year, and she's missed half her daughter's life. And maybe a situation where she didn't need money or whatever, but holy crap, I could not imagine that. She's like, I cook for them, and that's all. It's not even cooking. I just open flat pack proteins and add some salt. So why would they even need her? Can't they do that themselves? That's crazy. She's like, that's what I do every single day, but I had to kill my best friend. Belinda asks if she's hurt, because she's kind of holding her arm. There's like a big scrape on it, because she says that she ran and she fell, and Belinda wants to check it, but Shaya's like, do not approach. And the doctor's like, come on. So they give her this texting. Belinda says that she's a nurse, and Alice is like, a nurse who can't sign? She's like, that's against the law. And the doctor just kind of like looks at her like, mm-hmm. The doctor asks if she's been on her own for long, and Alice says 15 days. So he asks what happened. They all went crazy. Was there a noise, a gas, mercury from the mine shafts? And she's like, I don't know. And then he asks, why did they smash all the mirrors? And she starts like crying, so he like hugs her. Belinda asks for like a med patch or something like that. Babes asks Shia if they're just abandoning all protocol now. And Shia says that she doesn't look like she could break the necks of half the crew. So they're kind of like heading out, keeping guards on Alice. Babes make a point to turn on his thing. And he's like, any signs of trouble, shoot to kill. So this guy's like so here's this woman, this survivor, and who knows what's going on. He's like just being so cold and heartless. But maybe there's a reason. Belinda says to like patch up her arm. Scanner says that it's just a basic pack, and Belinda says that she doesn't even know what any of this is. So meanwhile, Shia, Babes, idiot Babes, and Doctor and another, they go to this other area, it's by the mines, and the doctor comments, he's like, oh, there's no bodies here. He says maybe they ran from this area. Then he stands by this big, huge shaft, and he's like, hello. And he's like, no one's home. And he's like, a well that runs 5 miles deep beneath the crust where light has never been before. There's like all these, this little platform, there's like some computers and stuff like that. So at the controls, Shia's like, nothing's responding. She's like, someone put a good old fashioned restraining bolt on the system. And she sees it. She's like, oh, it's up there. She aims, shoots it. Doctor's like, oh, you're a good shot. And she says that she joined like the forces when she was 14 because the war started when she was born or something like that. She says, like where she's from, whatever. So doctor's like, so in this century, Lombardo's a joint foundation with the planet Earth? Belinda's from Earth. And Shia's like, from where? He's like, planet Earth. And Shia's like, never heard of it. It's like, what does that mean? And then Babe's like, stupid name for a planet. The doctor's like, but the human race, you've heard of that. And Shia's like, not in these parts. And the doctor's like, but Earth is part of the foundation right now. That's a fact. Then she's like, your tests are very strange. Belinda tells Scanner that it's bad luck that she and the doctor came because, they were a squad of 11, now there's 13, and 13 is unlucky. Then she says that that's like an Earth thing, whatever. Scanner has no idea what she means by Earth or human race. And then there's like some harsh, like startling music. Belinda like looks at Alice. And everything's fine, but Belinda like flinches back, and I rewound it like maybe 3 or 4 times. I'm like, what the heck? There's like nothing, because Alice is just sitting there, and Alice is even like what? Belinda like stands back. All the guards are like on alert. They ask Belinda like, what happened? She's like, I thought I saw, and she looks around and kind of like behind Alice. She's like, nothing. So there's one soldier like, what'd you see? And she's like, I didn't. I'm getting paranoid. So the soldiers again, they're all on edge. Now others like looking around and. They're like, is anyone there? Belinda's like, it's nothing. It's just her. So Belinda gets some like medical paste or something like that to put on Alice's wrist, and she says like a saying or something about something that humans say, and she asks if she's ever met a human, and Alice is like, I never even heard of them, whatever. So that's kind of like shock to Belinda. She's like, what does this mean? Dr. Shia and Babes, they look at the computer screens. Babes like, everything's been erased. And the doctor uses a sonic, and then like everything's been restored. And they're like, how'd you do that? And he's like, magic or something. The doctor says to play the last file, and then Babes looks, he asks, he's like, does this doctor have authority over me? And Shia's like, right now he does. Yeah. And so the file's still kind of like corrupted, a little glitchy. So they're looking at the base commander's final statement. It came from the well. It came from the well. We don't know how to stop it. And that's it. There's this other dude like talking to Shia, and then he says he found the rest of them on the walkway dead, and Alice Fenley's the only one left alive. So Belinda's like wrapping Alice's wrist, She says it's strange because the doctor says that everyone, and then she screams. And then there was definitely this time you see like some sort of like shadow or something behind Alice's head. And you know, Belinda like falls back. Alice is confused. The soldier's like what did she do? And Belinda's like quick to insist that she didn't do anything because you know if they're going to shoot to kill, that you know she doesn't want them to be trigger happy or anything like that. So she's like, oh, I'm stupid. She's like, there's nothing there. And scanner lady, she's like, that's twice now. And Alice like, what are you saying? Because you know she can't hear them and she can't, you know, they got their backs to her. So Belinda turns on her texting. She apologizes, says she thought she saw something behind her. And Alice says, he's like, there isn't, is there? And she stands up. She's like, look at me. And she kind of spins around. She's like, I'm all clean. And the soldier is like, you know, what did it look like? And Belinda says that it didn't. Then he gets a little antsy. And he says that, you know, he didn't see anything. Others are trying to like look around. Then Scanner sees something. This other dude says there's nothing there. So Scanner's like I think it was Scanner. Now I'm not sure if it was. She says she knows she saw something. She says, you know, but there's nothing there. So Alice stands and says that, you know, she knows what they're thinking. This is how it started. You know, this is how she ended up killing her friend before her friend could kill her. Then there's like absolutely nothing behind her. So dude's like, okay, let's prove it. So they're gonna put a full circle around her. Alice's like, please leave me alone. And which is kind of annoying. And Belinda's like, she's terrified. It's like, okay, you know, she's been through a lot. And dude tells her to be quiet or she'll be considered a threat to life. So it's like, wow. So he tells Alice to keep looking at him. You know, do not look away. And he tells another to execute the move. Doctor tells Babes to isolate this guy in the background of the video. He asks for the sound, but they say there's no coverage. He's like too deep in the scene. The doctor nudges him aside, types some stuff, and then you can hear the guy yelling, "We don't know what it is." The screen like kind of flickers out. Then the doctor repeats, he's like, "We don't know what it is." Then he groans. He's like, "Oh, it's like my old head. This planet is flooded with galvanic radiation." It's like, where does it come from? And Shia's like, the sun, but it's just a gray star now, nothing special. He's like, but a gray star is a star that's collapsed. What was it before? And she's like, it was a extonic star. She's like, but that's ancient history, 400,000 years ago. The sun burnt out. The wars came. They stripped all the carbon off the surface and left it ruined. He's like, when you say carbon, and she's like, carbon-46. He's like, and the definition of that is? She's like, diamonds. She's like, this is a diamond mine. The entire surface of this planet was once made out of diamonds. And he's like, what? And the soldiers are moving, you know, this dude's moving around Alice, or no, it's like a lady. There's a lady, I'm pretty sure it was a lady, moves around Alice, and Alice is like, please stop. And then this bald soldier is like, or what? And call him Baldy. The doctor's like, what is this planet called? She's like 6767. The doctor's like, the old name, 400,000 years ago. She's like, what was this planet called? And she's like, it was called Midnight. And he's like, I've been here before. So then there's a flashback to David Tennant, the David Tennant doctor. And I think, I vaguely remember he was like in an orange like space suit. I think that planet. And I think I might not have watched all of that episode. It's like one of the few David Tennant ones or whatever. So he jumps off the platform and runs. So Alice is standing, soldier goes flying up and smashes into like a glass shelf when she lands. And Scanner shrieks, Baldy yells, what'd you do? I was like, it wasn't me. And Belinda's like, she was just standing there. The doctor runs in, he's like, stop. He's like, get back. And he sees the unconscious soldier. He's like, what happened? Scanner's like, she threw her across the room. And Belinda's like, she did not. So Scanner starts moving around, and then another tells her to stop. Scanner looks at the body, and she's like, she's dead. And Belinda's like, don't go behind Alice. And the doctor's like, what do you mean? And Belinda's like, there's something behind her. Shia and the other come running in. They're like, what's going on? And this dude, I don't remember if I'm pretty sure it was Babes. I think this was Babes. He's like, is she dead? She's like, I trained with her brother. And he like raises his rifle. Did you do this? Doctor's like, just try and stay calm. He's like, I do not take orders from you. He's like, did you kill her? And Alice like, no. He's like, then who did? And she's like, there's something behind me. All right, there's something behind me. I don't know what it is. No one knows what it is, but it can't be seen and it can't be stopped. There's something behind me all the time. Now please help me. Doctor's like, Alice, explain what you mean. She's like, something came out of the well. That's what they said. It came out of the well and they said it was laughing and now it's behind me. Belinda's like, look behind her, please, all of you, look. Shia's like, that doesn't make sense. There can't be something behind her, not from every angle. And then dude, Babes, He's like, no, this is an illusion or a trick. He's like, we saw what happened to the base. They all went mad. And the doctor's like, no, hold on, listen. He's like, permission to override the orders of this civilian, ma'am. And Shia's like, permission not given. And then he's like, Hanno was my friend. And Shia's like, permission not given. So this is, he's getting all like upset and uptight and everything like that. But it's only because this is personal. He knew the soldier had a connection, and now he's mad. So he's not thinking clearly. So she's like, permission not given. She's like, and the doctor's like, no. It's like, listen to Belinda. It's like, Belle, what do you mean? Why can't we go behind Alice? And it's so silly. She puts like a bolt or something on the ground, on the floor, and then she puts something else. She's like, if you go behind, you die. So like, there's absolutely no reason for her to model this. And the doctor's like, if it was a clock face, you die at midnight. And Belinda's like, that's what happened. That's what I saw. That's why I keep telling you to stand back. Don't go behind her. Don't go directly behind her or you're dead. Babes, dude, he's like, in that case, if something is standing behind her, then why don't we get rid of you? And he aims the rifle at Alice. And she's like, because if you kill me, it goes behind you. He's like, what? She's like, if you think it went for me first, you think it crawled its way out of hell to get to me? She's like, you idiot. I'm nothing. I'm the only one left. And Shia's like, half of them are broken, half of them shot. And Al's like, they kill each other to get rid of it. But if you kill the host, it jumps over to you. So it's like, why didn't you say all this stuff in the beginning? And you're like, I don't know. So, it seems a little suspicious, but whatever. I don't know if it's poor writing or she's just in denial or didn't want to say anything because they wouldn't believe her. She's like, it hides behind your back and it stays there forever. It's like, how would you know it stays forever? Maybe it stays there for a week. Or, well, I guess she's been there 15 days. And Shia tells the dude to step away. He's like, that's an order. The doctor is like, you said you'd been here before? When was that? He's like, a different life. He's like, back when the world was made of diamonds and I met something so vile. It had no face, no name, no self. I had never been more scared in my life. And Belinda's like, what did it do? And he's like, it had fun. It played games. I think it was learning. And dude's like, you saw this thing 400,000 years ago? And then Shia's like, you're listening to him? Shia's like, he might have information. He like scoffs. He's like, then I'm declaring a red code. Shia's like, you can't do that. And dude's like, this is exactly what a red code is for. When a leader is incompetent, he's like, am I seconded? No one says anything. Am I seconded? So Baldy's like, yes, sir. So the dude's like, then it's done. Until such time that we reach a disciplinary court, the red code stands. You will stand down, Shia Castellian, right now. And the doctor's like, I think we should all just calm down. And he turns and aims his blaster at the doctor. So, okay, you're aiming your blaster at a civilian now, since you don't believe that he has any authority. He's like, and you will be silent or you will be shot. And he turns to Alice. He's like, clearly there is something at work here. Clearly, bodies have been broken by some kinetic force manipulated either by Fenley, Alice, or something in collusion with or in control of her. And I maintain, and then Belinda's like, no, don't. And he starts like walking straight back. He like turns. If it exists, we will bring this entity into the open. We will examine it, and if necessary, we will destroy it. So then he's like, Trooper 1. And Baldy's like, yes, sir. Do you volunteer to engage? It's like, dude, why don't you do it? He's like, yes, sir. And the doctor's like, I'm telling you, do not. He's like, one more word. Either we disprove this story or we meet the enemy. Prepare to engage. And then to the others, the doctor's like, don't look. He's like, shut up. So the dude's like, he goes straight in front of Alice, and Baldy moves his way like straight behind her. So I don't know if there's like a growling or something like that. It almost sounds like there's something. And then Baldy flies up, lands hard. The dude aims at Alice. Doctor yells. He's like, don't move. And Alice like turns to face the dude, and another guy, because she kind of turns because he's got his gun pointed at her. So she kind of turns. Another guy ends up flying up. Because he ended up behind her now. He flies up. Body almost lands on the dude. And then Alice moves because he ducks out of the way. So this other soldier goes up, and then the other guy decides to run out of the room. He turns and looks back as he's about to walk out, and he ends up looking at Alice's back. He goes flying up, and the doctor yells at the dude, at Babes, to stay where he is. He's like, turn away. Shia almost gets behind Alice, and he tells her to turn 180, and the dude goes flying back against the wall hard. So basically, Shia got Alice to kill the annoying guy that questioned her authority. Belinda like gasps, and the doctor kind of squats down, and Shia's like, I had to. She's like, I had to. He was out of control, and it was because he was like freaking out Alice, and then she was like, he's like basically hurting her, making her turn and freaking her out, and everyone's getting killed. So doctor's like, that's what it turns us into, Shia. He's like, gun down. Alice is like, but it's not my fault, and the doctor's like, I know, I really know. So Belinda's like, well, what do we do? And Shia's like, we leave this place. The mission has failed. We retreat. And Alice points herself, and Shia's like, I'm sorry, you're contaminated. And she kind of whimpers as she mentions her daughter. You shouldn't have left your daughter at 1 year old. She sits and she's like sobbing. Belinda's like, we can't leave her behind. Another asks is like, well, they can move her? You know, they know they can't step behind her, but they can maneuver her back onto the ship. And the doctor's like, she's not leaving this planet, not with that thing. That's what it wants, to get out. Belinda's like, but we can't abandon her. He's like, that's not what I said. And Alice's like, don't turn your back on me, please, don't turn your back on me, because she can't hear what they're saying. But it's not like, it's like she's acting like this is the first time people are talking and she can't read their lips or read their text things. So the doctor just turns, he like rubs his chest or whatever, like, and then Shia tells him to stay where he is. He's like, too many people have died, and now it stops. He's like, I am now addressing the thing behind Alice Fenley. And he steps forward. He's like, my old friend, you have waited 400,000 years, but who are you? Are you there? What are you? And there's like distorted whispering. And Shia's like, did it say something? And, you know, someone else is like, what? And the doctor, he like sheds a tear again. So I'm sure people are going to love that the doctor's crying. He's like, oh, Alice, maybe that's how you survived. You can't hear it. And then she's like, what is it saying? And Belinda's like, what is it saying? She's like, no reason for you to repeat it. He's like, it knows my name. And he has like a look of shock, and his eyes are full of tears, and he starts like gasping. I'm like, I don't understand this big, it's like, I don't know, maybe because I didn't see that other episode or finish it or whatever. So he's like gasping, then he's like, oh yes, there it is. And it's like, what? And he gasps, he chuckles, he stands up, and he's like, it's behind you. Alice is like, I know. He's like, no, I'm talking to the thing behind you. And behind that, ha! And Belinda's like, what do you see? He's like, the way out. Oh, and I am an idiot because I forgot what type of mine this is. Oh, everybody get ready to run. And I mean run. Belinda, we should have never unsuited, babes. It's like, we are going to have to work really, really fast. She's like, Shia, how many in the airlock at once? And she's like, 6. He's like, 6. He's like, okay, there's 7 of us. Shia, get ready with that pistol. And she's like, for what? He's like, because you're the best shot in the land. Yeah? And I need you to fire it twice. So he stands in front of Alice. He's like, Alice Fenley, get ready. He's like, and now I am talking to that thing behind Alice Fenley, you stone cold murderer. If the thing behind you always gets destroyed, what if the thing behind you is you? He's like, Shia, left hand pipe vent. Pew! Right hand pipe vent. Pew! And he's like, Mercury, this mine operates a line drop of Mercury 16. And then scanner, she's like, it's going to reflect it. So there's like, just like, it's like pouring out like a waterfall of mercury from these pipes. So Belinda's like, it broke all the mirrors. And Shia's like, it'll see itself. Alice like, what will it do to me? And doctor's like, Alice, whatever it does to you, yeah, you have got us, okay? We are with you, okay? Everybody, eyes on Alice. And someone's like, are we going to see it? Do we look? Do we look away? The mercury's pouring out. Then she's like, ugh! She's like kind of shunted forward. And then she kind of gets pushed like not quite near, but like for the doctor kind of like catches her, and he tells her and the others like, run. But then stupidly the doctor stops, and Belinda's like, doctor, and he's like, I want to see it. But then it was kind of dark and everything. I guess he sees it, he gasps and he runs. So it's like, I don't think we could see it. Then Shia tells 2 troopers get Alice out. So she signs thank you to the doctor. The airlock closes, whatever, and they go. Shia and Scanner are helping Doctor and Belinda get suited up. He tells Shia that she should have left. Shia's like, I'm not leaving you behind. So, and she's like, your flight packs are dead. He's like, just run as fast as you can. The place kind of shudders, and then they fall over. They're all like, what's happened? It's like, are we okay? That airlock chimes, and Scanner says it's clear. And the doctor's like, I'm sorry, but we are not going anywhere. We can't.
And Belinda's like, you don't think? He's like, it's here. So all four of them look at each other. So Scanner's like, it's not me. Shia's like, well, it's not me. And Scanner's like, I swear it's not me. Belinda like sheds a tear, and the doctor's like, I don't think it's me. And Belinda's like, no. And the doctor's like, Belinda, it might not be. And she's like crying. She's got her eyes closed, and she's like, it's whispering. And the doctor's like, oh, Belle. And she's like, is it behind me? She's like, I'm so sorry. The doctor's like, it's not your fault. He raises his hand. He's like, take me. And Belinda's like, no. And the doctor's like, whatever you are, stand behind me. And she's like, doctor. The doctor's like, I promise that I would keep you safe. And I am telling you that thing behind you, whatever you are, you can walk the universe on my back if you just set her free. And Shia's like, doctor, the physical construction of the human race, is it similar to Lombardic? And he's like, what? She's like, is the torso constructed the same? And he's like, basically. She's like, then a shot fired 3 millimeters above the superior vena cava of her heart could mean death, or it could mean the narrowest of survival. And he's like, no. And Shia's like, all you need is a very good shot. And Belinda's like, but it'll go to you. And she's like, this is my job. So, phew, Belinda goes down. And now you see like a little gust of wind. It's behind Shia. The doctor uses like some paddles on Belinda, tells Scanner to do some stuff. Shia ran out of the airlock area. Doctor runs after her. So then there's flashback to Shia, like as a child running through like flamed wreckage. And she says she ran from monsters, didn't look back. She ran across the galaxy with one aim, to do her duty, to help, to protect, to bring hope. And then she's standing at the well's edge, and she turns, and the doctor like runs in. She's like looking at him, and she just lets herself fall back. He's like, no. Then we see Belinda's like waking up. The doctor's back. Belinda like jabs herself in the neck with like something, and then she's laying on a TARDIS floor. The doctor's like, I got you, Belle, I got you. And she's like, what about my heart? And he's like, it's fine. He's like, we got it just in time. Super skin stitch, it's all mending. And she's like, okay. Then she's like, what happened? He's like, it's gone. And she's like, and Shia? He's like, I'm sorry, I couldn't, I tried. And she's like, did it work? Are we safe? He's like, yes. And she's like, doctor, they'd never heard of the Earth. What's happened to the Earth? He's like, I don't know. And she's like, how could the Earth not exist? And he like lays next to her. Then it cuts to Scanner. She's sitting in this computer room. She recommends like a posthumous commendation for Shia with her bravery and whatever stressful situation, stuff like that. And she's like, and Cassio, that's Babes, he tried his best. The doctor gave orders to follow his advice, nuke the site from orbit, never to return. So then his voice on the screen is like, and this doctor, what do we know about him? And Scanner's like, we thought he was sent by you. And then we see, pretty sure it's Mrs. Poole. It's either Mrs. Poole or another old lady, and I don't remember her face, but it's her. This doesn't make any sense. And Scanner's like, he's got this sort of cargo on the ship, a big, tall blue box. And then she's like, was he carrying this? And she hits some like stuff on her keyboard, turns her tablet, and it shows the Vindicator. And Scanner's like, yes, he was, yes. And the person on the screen, Mrs. Poole, maybe, relative, whatever, says, well, that's exactly what I needed to know. Just as I predicted, a Vindicator in action. That's very good news. Thank you. And then the Scanner hears a TARDIS warbling, and she runs a check. So this other person comes running out. She's like, what was that noise? And Scanner's like, I have absolutely no idea. She's like, I don't know anything anymore. And then I think her name was Val. She's like, are you okay? Sounds like a nightmare down there. And Scanner's like, that's the word, yeah. She's like, I've got to write the report. I couldn't even begin to tell you what happened. And Val's like, just like staring at her. And Scanner's like, what? And she kind of like looks, and she's like, nothing. And Scanner's like, what is it? And that's the end. So the thing did survive? And it's just like, so basically, Shia, all these people died. The original colonists died. All these other people died in the squad. Shia died. So it's just like, oh man, this is just like very dreary. So yeah, that was kind of crazy, and yeah, that was the episode. Now next week, apparently Ruby Tuesday is back. So what does that mean? They must be going before 2025, because since they can't get there.
we'll have to see. But yeah. All right, The Last of Us, Season 2, Episode 3, The Path. And this is the thing now. It's like, do we want to watch this after what happened last week? So again, spoilers. Hopefully you are caught up. Otherwise, you should be skipping past this part of the episode. So it starts. We see it's like there's some infected lying outside the gate. Some are still on fire. Then there's like a close up of Joel's smashed watch. His body's being cleaned up. Then Tommy comes in. So that the lady, I don't know if we know who she is, but she just like leaves him alone. He's like, he kind of like lifts the sheet. He kind of looks, and then sitting by his side, wets a rag to go back to like cleaning his arm and everything. And then he looks at, he covered him back up. He looks at his covered face, and he's like, "Give Sarah my love." And he's like, fighting the tears. And he gets back to work. So then there's hospital. There's like chaos. Ellie's lying in a bed, and she's got like some like tube in her side or something like that. So she's asked if she's in pain. She thinks back to Abby like jabbing Joel. Then she sits up and screams. They try like calming her. They sedate her. Then 3 months later, so town's working to make repairs on the fence on the big wall, and like the town, they're repairing buildings. Tommy's like working alongside Jesse and it. Then Ellie is asked. She's still in the hospital. She's asked to rate her pain on a scale of 1 to 10, and she's like, nothing, 0. So the doc, he's like, oh, 0, whatever. And she's like, okay, one other thing. She's like, today's the day. It's like, you just need to see one other person, and then you can go. Gail comes in, and Ellie isn't thrilled. She's like, how are you doing? And Ellie's like, fine. She's like, if you say it that fast, it implies that you're not. And Ellie's like, of course. She's like, okay, ask me again. And she's like, let me give it a moment. It's really complicated. And she's like, okay. And she's like, come on, man, I've been stuck here since. And then she's like, okay, yeah, I miss him. He meant a lot to me. So yeah, upset and sad. And Gail's like, of course. But I was actually wondering about New Year's Eve. You two got into it at the dance. Was that the last time you spoke to him? And she like nods. And she's like, yeah. When I got home, he was on the porch. And I should have talked to him, but I didn't. Gail's like, do you regret that? She's like, yeah, of course. But your final moment with someone doesn't define your whole time with them. And Gail's like, it shouldn't, but it often does. And she's like, in my last moment with Joel, Gail says this. He's like, he said he wronged you, maybe bad. And then Ellie's like, what is it he said that he did? And Gail's like, well, that's the thing. He didn't really make sense. He said, I saved her. And Ellie's like, he saved me a lot of times. And Gail's like, yeah, I would think so, but that's not wronging someone. And Ellie's like, that's weird. No idea what he meant. I don't feel wrong. It's like, man, I wish I could have let him off the hook for whatever he was talking about. Guess I have to let myself off the hook for that. So there's something more there. I don't know if we're going to get a flashback. So then Gail's like, well, you really are doing good. And she's like, poop. If everyone were as healthy as you, what would I do for weed and booze? And Ellie's like, I wouldn't worry, Gail. There's still a lot of fudged up people in this town. And Gail's like, but not you, though. And she holds out her hand to present the exit for Ellie to leave the room. In the hall, it's just like a close-up of Ellie's face, so she must be thinking about what Joel said. We don't know what that means. At the house, there's like flowers outside the gate. There's like notes and stuff. She like stands and looks, and then she walks up to the house, slowly goes inside. She stares like at Joel's bedroom door. She looks at her old room, like the mattress is missing because it's in the garage. She goes into his room, and you see like some like woodworking carving. There's like this big owl that he's been doing like on a desk in there. And then there's like a red box in the bed. She opens the lid. There's a watch there. So I'm assuming it's Joel's watch repaired because it was like, it was cracked, the lens or whatever. And I don't know if there's pants or something like that. And then there's a revolver underneath. So she picks it up. It's empty, but she sticks it in the back of her pants. And she turns and she stops when she sees his closet. And she goes there. She kind of like touches his, shirt sleeve. And she's like crying. She buries her face against it. And then Dina calls from downstairs. And she kind of panics. She's like, I'm coming. She tries to compose herself, wipe her tears, whatever. So Dina's sitting at the dining room table. And she says that she went to the hospital and was told that they let her out. And Ellie's like, yeah, 30 minutes ago. She's like, they made me talk to Gail. And Ellie says that She never said it, but she should thank her for all the times that she came to visit. And Dina's like, it's okay. She's like, you would have done the same. And Ellie's like, yeah, maybe not as often. And Dina's like, yeah, probably not. And she's like, I made you cookies. And she has like a little container. Ellie's like, why? 'Cause? And Dina's like, no, this is a peace offering because I'm about to make you angry. Ellie's like confused. And Dina's like, in the hospital, when you asked me about that day, I told you I didn't learn anything useful. That wasn't true. I know most of their names and I know where they're from. And she's like, please, just listen. Because, she like gets up. She's like, the doctors told me not to upset you. She's like, I don't give a fudge. And Dina's like, and I knew that if I told you where they were, you would start pulling your tubes out and crawling on your hands and knees to get there. And Ellie's like, I don't give a fudge. You cost us time. You let them get away. And Dina's like, first of all, this town was wreckage and funerals for weeks. Nobody was going to go after anyone. And then it occurred to me, if you want to find someone and the only thing you know about them is where they're going to end up, maybe let them get there. And then she's like, I loved him too, Then she's like silent. And then she slides the cookies at Ellie. So she takes one. And then she's like, okay, let's start with the names. The dark-haired guy was Manny. The other guy was Owen. The girl with the dark hair and the bald one of them was named Nora. I'm not sure which. So it must have been the bald one because the other one was Mel. That's the one that grabbed her, that injected her, I think. And then Allie's like, the girl with the braid? And she's like, Abby. And Ellie whispers, she's like, Abby. And then she's like, where are they from? So she unfolds the paper. She's like, I saw a patch on a backpack. And she's like, starts drawing. It's like yellow triangle, wolf's head, and the letters WLF. And then I remember the story Eugene told me about back when he was a Firefly. He said that there was these small regional groups in the West, all tied, trying to fight Fedra. And how stupid it was that they didn't just join together. One of those groups was Washington Liberation Front. So WLF. It's like out of Seattle. And she hands the drawing to Ellie. And Ellie's like, morons? It's like, did he say how small they were? And Dina's like, no, but seeing as how no one ever mentioned them since, I'm guessing small enough for us to handle. And Ellie's like, who else knows? Dina's like, just us. I wasn't going to tell anyone before you. So Ellie's like, thinks, and then she pushes a cookie to Dina as a gesture. And Dina's like, so now what? So Ellie and Dina, they went to Tommy. They must have told him everything, because then Ellie's like, well? And he's like, I got to think about it. And Ellie's like, think about what? Let's fudge and get these guys. He's like, Ellie, it ain't that simple. The town is still recovering. So are you. Dina tries cutting in to smooth the tension. It's like, we get where you're coming from. And Ellie's like, no, we don't get where you're coming from. I don't get where you're coming from. If it had been you, Joel would be halfway to Seattle before the sun came up. Tommy's like, he'd be halfway to Seattle to save my life. But when we lost people, no. It would just break him like it was his fault. I saw that time and time again. And don't talk to me like I don't know him. He was my brother. He's like, listen, I'm not saying you shouldn't do this. But if we're going to put a posse together, we got to do it right, which means taking it to Maria. Ellie opens her mouth in protest and he cuts her off. He's like, yes, it's fudging necessary. She's going to want a council meeting. Open it up to the town. Everyone who wants to get heard gets heard. And she's like, but you'll back us, right? He's like, of course I will. And he gets up and he pulls her into a hug. And then while they're hugging, he says, Dina, and you hold out on information on me again, you got rendering detail for a month. Then they start to leave, and Tommy calls out. He's like, Ellie, we buried our dead 10 miles south of town if you want to visit him. And Ellie's like, when we're on our way to Seattle. And she walks off. So then we see this bald dude with an arrow and kind of like a parka or it's like this green poncho parka thing walking through the wood. He whistles to others that have arrows. They stop and listen, and then they keep walking. And then he does a second whistle. So then there's a dude in the group. He asks a little girl, I guess it was his daughter, and he's like, well? And she's like, no one following. All clear. Keep moving. But it's weird. They all have these scars on their faces, on the side of their cheeks, almost kind of like a smile. Not quite Heath Ledger Joker, but it's just, so it's something. And he's like, good. Once we get resettled, I'll teach you to whistle. And then she's like, why can't you tell me where we're going? And he's like, because we don't know yet. I told you the reason we're going. And she's like, I know, but why can't she keep us safe? And he's like, the prophet? She's been dead 10 years, Constance. And he's like, I wouldn't count on her to help. And she's like, but Ezra said the prophet is eternal. And he's like, well, she is, in a way. A prophet isn't magic. They're just people that see truths hiding from others and share that truth no matter what the cost. So it was with our prophet. And the other's like, so it was. So they're basically like a cult, right? And he's like, that's how we keep her spirit alive. Follow her words. We obey her teachings, but we keep ourselves safe. And then she looks at his belt. Then can I have a hammer? He's like, all right. And he gives her a hammer. He's like, tell me, you feel safer? And she's like, yes. He's like, good. Understand what we are giving you now will make you far, far safer than a hammer. Distance. And she's like, from home? He's like, from war. So like, what is going on? What, the war? There's another whistle. They all stop. They look back. Then this dude gives back 2 whistles and then one more back at them. And he says to everyone, he's like, take cover, go. So they dart off the path into the woods. They like, duck in the bushes and behind trees. And the little girl's like, demons? And he's like, wolves. So does that mean the wolves that Ellie and Dina were talking about? Or someone else? Ellie's like hitting a punching bag with Jesse. And, he's like pushing. And she's like, she asks what he thinks. He's like, for someone sitting on their ass for 3 months, he's like, I'm pleasantly surprised. And then he asks about push-ups, and she's like, crunches too, when he wasn't looking or something like that. Then he's like, a few more weeks, you'll be where you were before, which is 80% where you should have been. And she's like, whatever. She's like, fudge you. And she's like, so, I heard you're on the council now. He's like, yep. She's like, so you know about the meeting coming up? He's like, I know about the meeting coming up. And Ellie's like, can I count on you? And he's like, I can't discuss upcoming votes. So, is really, or is he against it? She's like, seriously, it's me. He's like, I know. And she's like, dude, you were there. He's like, I know that too. And he's like, I gotta go. And she whispers, she's like, oh my God. And he's like, Ellie, the council won't make up their mind until we hear people speak. So here's a little advice. Organize your thoughts, write them down, and then read them out loud tomorrow. And she's like, okay, yeah, because I'm stupid. He's like, because you're angry, Ellie, and no one is going to vote for angry. So council meeting, this guy's going on about like turkey versus chicken, and which would be higher yield or whatever, and he brings up corn. It's tough, but it gives a lot or something like that. And he's just going on, and Tommy cuts him off. He's saying that they need to keep him on target. This guy Scott, he's like, but it's an open meeting. Maria's like, maybe we should talk about what everyone else came here to discuss, because the room is like packed. It's a big room. He's like, well, I don't really have an opinion on the Seattle thing. Maria's like, okay, thank you. And he's like, Then Maria calls this lady named Rachel. She says something about people can't hear her, and she hands off this like crying kid, and she stands on a chair. She's like, I said that Joel meant so much to so many of us, but he wasn't the only one. I lost my sister that day. A lot of people in here buried family, and now you want to send, what, you're saying 16 of our best? Well, while they're gone, who's going to be on the wall if raiders come? A wall that's barely mended, and none of you up there can promise that all 16 will come back. So my heart is with you, Tommy and Ellie, but we are hurt too, and it's too soon. So it's like, what, because you can't protect yourself, these people, they have to stay and protect? So she's like, Maria's like, thank you, Rachel. Next is Carlisle. He's like, I'll be quick, because this one's simple to me. People came and killed Joel, so why wouldn't we want to take our vengeance? Well, because we're not supposed to. Forgive and be forgiven. No grudges, no revenge. And I'm not even a Christian. I've always seen the wisdom in that. That's what separates us from the raiders and the murderers, our capacity for mercy. Then Seth cuts in. So Seth's the guy that was a bigot, whatever, to Ellie and Dina. And he's like, those SOBs don't deserve our mercy. The guy's like, of course they don't deserve it. That's what makes it mercy. And Seth's like, well, the hell with that. And the hell with you for saying it, Carlisle. And he stands. Maria's like, sit down, Seth, because he's not on there. He's like, no. And she's like, you're not on the list. He's like, no. He's like, what the hell are we all talking about here? Boo-hoo. It's not fair. What, we got to forgive everyone they show up and piss in our eye? They came into our house. They took one of ours. My God, somebody shoots your brother and you want to take the locks off your doors? Grow up, you idiots. It's like, they'll come back. They'll come back because we didn't make them pay. And when they come back, they'll be laughing and you'll all deserve it. Bunch of GD victims. And he sits. Maria crosses off Carlisle's name. And then that's it. The next name is Ellie. So only 2 people are speaking, which seems kind of crazy. But Seth has a point, because here's the thing. They came in, and maybe they're just focused on Ellie, but they were surprised at how big the place. They were surprised that they had lights. So what does that mean about their place? So they had lights. They got this big city and this big town. So they probably look at it as like, okay, we killed this dude who everyone's probably liked, or whatever the stories are. Nothing. They did nothing. So maybe we come back, we take over this town. So he's got a point there. Maria calls Ellie. She hesitates and stands. She takes out like a folded piece of paper, like Jesse told her to. And she's like, I normally don't write things down because I normally don't think before I talk, which has gotten me in trouble before, a lot. And it's cost me in ways that sometimes couldn't be undone. But I can't afford that right now because I know what I'm asking is a lot. I'm asking us to risk more people and resources and at the worst possible time. And I want everyone to know it's not because I want revenge. She's like, it's not. It's not about revenge. What I want is what you used to give people. I want justice because it's either that or we do nothing. That's what everyone else out there is going to do for us. Nothing. A whole world of people who won't lift a finger if something bad happens to me or you. We have a word for these people. They're called strangers. Well, I don't think that we're strangers to each other. And I want to know that I can count on you. And I swear, if someone hurts any of you or the people you love, you can count on me. That's what holds all this together. Not potluck dinners or New Year's Eve dances. Definitely not a wall, because that thing got busted through. But Jackson is still here. I'll accept whatever the council decides. But I'm asking you, please, do what it takes to see that justice is done. Not for me, not even for Joel. I'm asking you, please, do it for us. And Maria's like, thank you. She's like, the council will now vote on a proposal to send a party of 16 citizens to Seattle to find the people who killed Joel and execute them. So they vote on folded sheets of paper, and this lady reads, yes, no, yes, no. So it's tied. No, yes, still tied. No, 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 no. I think that was right. The vote is 8-3. The proposal is rejected. So Maria adjourns the meeting, and then Seth remains seated. Ellie gets up. So it's like, who voted? Obviously, Tommy voted yes. I wonder if, like, Jesse, how he voted. So then there's like a little league game. Gail's sitting in a lawn chair. She's drinking beer. She's got like a cooler or something like that. She's watching. Tommy comes up, says that he didn't know she was a fan. And he says that, he spotted her in the crowd at the meeting. And he said to himself that she must have been extra busy the last few weeks. And she's like, oh yeah, brutal. And, she's supposed to see a shrink herself to process it all. She's like, but I'm the only one here. And Tommy's like, what do you do then? She's like, oh, well, I'm an alcoholic. I smoke as much weed as I can. Complete fudging disaster. But you're not here because you're worried about me. He's like, you see things that others don't. I'm nervous she's going to do something stupid. And Gail's like, what? You didn't believe her speech? And Tommy's like, did you? She's like, of course not. She's a liar. Tommy's like, well, there's a difference between lying and being a liar. She's like, oh, I know. And that one, liar. It's like, there was maybe one person she told the truth to, and but we can agree to disagree about that. What matters is you're afraid. So let's talk about it, free of charge. And Joel's like, I just don't want her to go down the same path that Joel did, coming up with justifications and such. All he was really doing was lashing out. Gail's like, so you think she might have learned that behavior from him? Turns out nurture can only do so much. The rest is nature. If she's on a path, it's not one that Joel put her on. It's like, no, they were walking side by side from the very start. It's like, Tommy, I get it. You inherited her. You want to keep her out of trouble. Take it from a psychotherapist of 40 years. Some people just can't be saved. So Ellie's cleaning the pistol. She loads it, sticks it in the back of her pants. There's a knock on the door. And she has like some other guns out too. So she's like, what is she going to do? She's like, who is it? It's Dina. So she hesitates. She's like, I'm just going to bed. And Dina's like, no, I don't think that is where you're going. And then she's like, are you alone? And she's like, I'm alone. So she opens the door, pulls her inside. And she's like, please don't try to talk me out of this. And Dina's like, you think that's why I'm here? And she's like, so what's your plan? And Ellie's like, go to Seattle and kill Abby. And then Dina's like, what route? She's like, northwest. And then Dina's like, and is that all guns or do you have medical supplies in there? She's like, no. Well, better not land weird on an ankle or get a fever on your well-charted path northwest. I was like, okay, so what am I supposed to do? Dina pulls out a map. It's like, and she, unfolds it. Stay off the highways, steer clear of cities or settlements. First stage is through the national forest. Once we're out, and she says once we're out, we follow Snake River Canyon, then break off through the Snoqualmie Pass, or something like that. Approach Seattle from the east, then reassess based on what we find. Provisions, travel light, but smart. Winter coats for bed, jacket for blankets, first aid kits, batteries, bear spray. Now, handguns, what are you bringing? So she pulls out the pistol, and she's like, is that Joel's? And she's like, mm-hmm. And she's like, so, that's what you're going to kill her with? And she's like, fudging right. And Dina's like, then save it for that. It's low and kicks like hell. So she puts the gun back in her pants. She's like, really? Shoot your damn ass off? And she's like, I've heard that before. And then Dina's like, well, we'll want at least 100 shells apiece plus 50 rifle rounds. Bring any long gun you want as long as it's scoped. Chlorine tablets, a pan, something to keep Shimmer dry, the horse. And she's like, just Shimmer? And Dina's like, yeah, we share a horse. Fewer resources, everything else is what you'd figure except this. And she points at her feet. She's like, boots. It's like, love the Converse, respect your consistency, but you're not crossing open country and fudging chucks. She's like, I've done it before. And Dina's like, no chucks. Question? And Allie's like, yeah. 1, how the fudge are we going to get all of this? And she's like, I know a guy. And Allie's like, oh, no. Don't tell me that you told Jesse, please. And she's like, Captain Wyoming? She's like, no, I love the man, but he's a little uptight about rules and poop. Like, wear all the clothes you're going to bring. Fill your pockets with ammo. Everything else needs to fit inside a holster or your backpack. We'll meet by the old East Gate, 3 a.m. And she's like, 3 a.m. And she heads for the door. And Ellie's like, hey, thank you. And then Dina's like, you could have just asked. And Ellie's like, no, I actually didn't know that. And she's like, well, now you do. So Ellie's waiting. Dina comes with the horse and Seth. And he holds up his rifle. He's like, trade. Ellie doesn't respond. And he's like, it's better. Trade. So she finally does the switch without saying anything. Ellie asks Dina how she got the horse out. And Seth's like, Janine's night watch at the stables. She's sympathetic to our cause. And she's like, our cause? He's like, you're the one that gave the us speech, not me. Saddlebags are filled with stuff I had squirreled away. 2 weeks worth of hardtack, bandages, alcohol, meds, batteries. I'd come with you, but I caught some friendly fire on New Year's Day. And Ellie's like, you sure it was friendly? Dina's like, Jesus. He's like, we got 10 minutes before a patrol comes by. Let's get you going. So he opens a gate for them. He lifts a hand to Ellie. She looks, she takes it and shakes. And Dina nods to him. So morning, they've reached a gravesite. Dina stays like on the horse while Ellie finds Joel's grave. She kneels in front of it. She's just like stares. And I think she takes out some coffee beans. Am I missing something? Was there some significance to this? I'm sure there must be. She just places them on the ground, like smiles, puts her hand over them, walks back to Dina and the horse. So they're continuing on a journey. They're talking along the way. First, they're doing like musicians with each letter of the alphabet. Then Dina asks the first person you killed, but Ellie doesn't want to talk about that. She says it was a mess, so she talks about the second, whatever. Then it's night. There's like a rainstorm. They're in the tent. Dina lays down right away. Ellie says, she's like, good night, and turns off the lantern. Then Dina says, okay, but I have a stupid question. She turns the lantern back on. She's like, it's about New Year's Eve, and the kiss. And Ellie's like, okay. She's like, I mean, whatever. You were super high. And Dina's like, and you were drunk. And Ellie's like, right. So it doesn't mean anything if that's what you're asking. Dina's like, no, I know that. My question is, how would you rate it? Scale of 1 to 10. And Ellie's like, no. And Dina's like, come on. You've kissed girls before. You're gay. I'm not. I'm just curious. I want to know if I'm any good at it. 1 to 10. And Ellie's like, okay, fine, 6. And she's like, fudge you, 6. Ellie's like, that's not bad. And Dina's like, that sucks. So like, for the record, I don't believe you. And Ellie's like, well, you asked. I told you, I'm sorry. You can go back to Jesse. And she's like, I already did. And then Ellie's like, well, there you have it. And then Dina's like, does he ever strike you as sad? And Ellie's like, Jesse? Yeah. Has he ever told you why? She's like, no, but I think deep inside, that's just how he is. At least I hope that's why. And I was like, why would you hope that? Dina's like, well, because if it's not that, then it's me. Well, good night. And she's like, night, click. And then they're laying there, and she's like, Ellie, I wasn't that high. So there's a marker that says Arbitorium to the right, Seattle Trail to the left. And this, so we saw the same sign. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it was the same sign when the whistling arrow people were. So Dina says that they're maybe 10 miles. They come upon an overturned like little wagon. There's a body there. Ellie says that he was running away because there's bullet holes in his back, and you see like the symbol on their like poncho things, like kind of like this curve with a line or whatever. I think it's supposed to be like a bow and arrow, or maybe, I don't know. And Dina's like, what is it? Ellie's like, I've never seen it before. So Ellie looks at like bullet casings all by the body, which is like, did they shoot him right there? It seems weird. She's like, a lot of different calibers. She's like, I don't think this was Fedra, Dina. And she's like, Dina's gone. But then she comes running back on the trail from the bushes, and she throws up. Ellie's like, are you okay? So she goes to look while Dina continues throwing up. In the woods are several dead bodies, including the little girl with the hammer and her dad. And she still has the hammer in her hand, so it didn't protect her. And then she goes back to Dina. Dina apologizes, says that's never happened before. Maybe it was a smell. Ellie says it wasn't easy to look at either. Then Ellie's like, if this was fudging them, if Abby and her crew did this to people, the kids, Dina's like, yeah, let's go. So back on the horse, there's an overgrown car. Dina says that they're close. Now there's like more dirty cars. There's piled up, overgrown road, like bushes and shrubbery growth on everything. Dina says it's quiet, and Ellie's like, yeah, too quiet. So there's a sign that says Seattle 9, Tacoma 41, Portland 173. So she's like, 9 more miles. And Ellie's like, 9 more. Then they see Seattle. It's like overgrown, like some buildings are like busted and stuff like that. And Ellie's like, Seattle. It's like, pretty. And Dina's like, and no one's shooting at us. I guess there aren't that many wolves. And then Ellie's like, there's about to be a whole lot less. Then we see Manny. He's sitting in a room. He must be like, I don't know if he's in the needle. He's like up high. He might be in the Seattle needle thing. He's doing lookout. He gets radioed. A dude says that they're moving up to the FOB. He's like, all clear between checkpoints 3 and 5. And Manny's like, you told me to watch 6 and 8. Now they fudging want me to 3 and 5? So he's like grumbling. And then he gets up, looks through his binoculars. And they're like, Manny, you copy? And he's like, just give me a fudging second, jeez. But he doesn't say that. Then he radios, you're all good. You can move up. So he doesn't see them. I was like, is he about to see them? Hopefully he's looking in the wrong spot because they told him whatever. And then you see like an army transport thing drives by, another one, and then another, like 3 of them. And, and they got like big guns and stuff on there. They're followed by a huge, huge army of armed and armored soldiers. So I think Ellie and Dina are in a little over their heads. I mean, this was huge amount. That's how it ends. So, I don't know what they're going to do. And again, you're going to a friggin' city? How many people are in the city? Because I think about when Joel and Ellie, I don't remember the episode in season 1, when they go to that city, and they barely made it out of there. And now here, they're going to Seattle, and they're trying to find 5 people, or really just 1, maybe all 5, in a city full of people. Like, how many people are there? It's not like there's only going to be 5 people or 10 people. There's this crazy plan. So now we got to wait to find out what happens. All right, Star Wars Andor, Season 2, Episode 3, Harvest. All right, so before I get into the episode, it's yes, this is such a well-made show. It's very, very intricate, very detailed. We're seeing a lot. I almost feel like, and I feel weird about this because sometimes I feel like we're seeing too much. Like some things are going on. And I'm always like, because like when people complain like, 20 minutes of the movie could have been shaved off or whatever. I'm like, no, it's like, I want to see every little bit, especially like with the Marvel movies, because it's like, it's going to be months or years before we see anything again. So I want as much content as possible. But with this, I guess, I'm kind of looking at 2 fronts. One, it's
because they're dropping 3 episodes at once, and I don't have the time. I actually, as I was like looking up, trying to see, I was trying to find an article about that kind of spoiled something that happened here, and I found this one where someone talked. It was where was it at? It was thegamer.com. I think that was the website, and I will give that credit. Did I? I don't know if I still have the tab open, but someone they're talking about the schedule. I'm like, okay, so this person is enjoying it, but they're actually on the same side as me. I guess this writer hasn't watched any of the episodes, and part of it is because of the release schedule. And I think I don't know if it was a guy that wrote it. I don't want to assume that, but they're like, I don't have time to, I can't watch 3 hours every week of this show because, you got other things to do. And if you're, especially even if you're running a website, if you're doing that full time, that's all you're doing. To commit to 3 hours on top of everything else, it's a lot. I mean, unless you're doing like a Star Wars blog where it's like, hey, this is our celebration, this is our big thing. We got a Star Wars show, we're going to cover it in depth. So it's a lot to do. And then where I look at some of the stuff happening, and I feel like it's dragging on. So I mentioned in the second episode, so when Andor had the TIE fighter, he's supposed to hand off the TIE fighter. The person he was supposed to hand it off to, I'm assuming got killed by those other people stranded on the planet. And we get this whole long, back and forth. Like we said, and the group, the survivors, they end up making like 2 groups, like attacking each other and trying, it felt like so detailed, incredibly detailed, and then Andor just takes off. He gets back to the ship, he's free, and he goes. So it's like, why? What the heck? Why do we see like 2 episodes worth of dealing with these people? All these, talking about the brother, he's supposed to come back, and this and that, and then it means nothing. I mean, unless they're going to pop up later in the season, it kind of pisses me off. Because I'm just like, why? They don't matter. Now, at the other, on the other hand, it's like this is just, it's fleshing out the world. It's making it bigger, more realistic and all this stuff. But it's like, oh my gosh. And I just wonder, it's like, in this episode, I'm going to just tell you right now, I'm probably going to mention again, there was so much dancing going on. It's like it would flip back to the wedding, dancing, and then it's like there's Luthen, there's Andor, there's Bix, dancing. Then there's this. It's like, oh my gosh. All right, let's just start into this episode. Andor, so he left the planet. He's back in the TIE. He's kind of drifting. He gets changed. He adjusts some of the circuits and that and the wiring. So I don't know if he disabled some of the stuff when he landed. Maybe. Then on the wheat planet, whatever, where Bix and Brasso and whatever and B2EMO are, the whole town's like eating at these big tables, something like that. And then Kellen's the guy that owns like the store. He drives up. So Brasso gets up off the table and he goes to find out like what's the latest news. Bix is watching nervously because Imperials are there to do their audit and they're illegally. So Kellen says that he got a call from 600 this morning. So unfortunately, they're next on the inspection schedule. So Brasso's like, how soon? And Kellen says that they're finished there today, so like maybe tomorrow. And Brasso's like, are they checking visas? And Kellen's like, it's random. They found a group hiding last night in 600. So sometimes they walk right by, so it's a big risk. And Brasso's like, well, where can we go? And Kellen hands him something. He says the best he could do. So there's emergency work. It's an emergency work order for the 800 block. And, just 3 sweepers that need fixing. He's like, so you head out tonight and you wait till, they finish poking around here, then circle back around in a few days. And Brasso's like, is this a legit? And he's like, well, I had to change the date. He's like, you only use it tonight if you get stopped. And Brasso's like, sorry about this, Kellen. He's like, you've been a savior. And he's like, please. He's like, Cassian's friend, the big boss? He's like, if you do and don't want to say so, that's fine. But someone needs to tell him what's going on here. And Brasso's like, it's going on everywhere. Then he's like, well, why can't they just leave us in peace? So it's like, okay, so nice of this Kellen guy, he's helping them out. Then we see Mon's daughter. She comes in, she's in her wedding dress, and Mon asks if she's nervous, and she's like, of course I am. And then she's like, are they all out there? And Mon's like, they can wait. Because, they're like in a room, like right before they go out into the wedding. She's like, my mother was drunk when I got married. This room right here, just like this. I was so angry. I didn't think I could ever forgive her. But I could never understand why she'd done it until just now. And then Leda, I think her name is, she's like, what are you doing? And Mon's like, I need to tell you what my mother never told me. Nothing on the other side of that door matters. Not the guests, not the gifts, not the trouble that's gone into it. None of it matters. Money, embarrassment, pressure. And she's like, what are you saying? Mon's like, we can walk out there right now, tell them all to have a lovely afternoon, but that it's not yet time for a marriage. We can put it off, and it will be remembered as an act of great bravery. I promise you, you do not have to go through with this. So Leda is like, I wish you were drunk. And Mon kind of turns, she puts on her headscarf thing. The daughter turns to face the door waiting. She takes a step, and Mon's like, wait. She's like, you're supposed to stand behind me. So then Mon kind of composes herself, or calls out maid in waiting or something like that. So they open the door, they step out. And then there's like these various rituals take place. Drums are playing, walk in circles, whatever. The groom goes up to her, cuts a braid off her. He was handed a knife. He cuts a braid off her, whatever. But it's like, it's a very small ceremony. So I guess the wedding is just very more intimate. And then everyone else just enjoys the party after that. So then we see Dedra and Karn, Cyril. They're getting their and this is what I feel like I missed something. So I know he saved her, and it's like, why are they living together? How did that happen? Because I didn't think she cared, like I wanted anything to do with him. So they're getting their place ready for dinner. He's like, preparing some food. She's trying to decide on an outfit, like looking like holding one up another. And then once they're both dressed, she ended up going with this black outfit. They stand, but they're like not even looking at each other. And they're kind of waiting. Then the door chimes. So he goes and answers it. It's his mother. So they walk in, and he's like, Mother, this is Dedra. And she's like, Edie, please. Because her name's Edie. And Dedra like smiles, extends her hand. But it's like she doesn't shake it. And she's like, it's such a pleasure to finally meet you. And she's like, finally, indeed. And she like laughs, but again, doesn't shake her hand. She's like, my word, it's a palace. And she's like, thank you, it's home. And she's like, you look nothing like what I expected. And then Cyril, he's like, here, let me get your coat. And she's like, how refreshing. One longs for courtesy, don't you think? And Dedra's like, yes, absolutely. And then Edie's like, and there is so little of it. And Cyril's like, what can I get you to drink? She's like, don't you, and she just ignores him. She's like, don't you wonder what I thought you'd look like? And Dedra's like, I'm afraid to ask. And then to Cyril, she's like, do you have any spiced tea? And he's like, since when are you drinking spiced tea? And she's like, when? I see you so rarely. And the Dedra's like, are we not allowed to change? And she like chuckles. So Cyril's like, well, we don't have spiced tea. They're still open downstairs. Cyril, no, please, no. No, I'll have what you're having. And Dedra's like, there's a shop in the arcade. And she's like, no, please. I did not come all this way to see Cyril disappear again. Show me your wonderful home. And Dedra she kind of gives Karn a look like, So it's like, what's going on here? At the antique shop, a light like flashing on Clea's like hidden communications thing. She unlocks it, opens up, listens, fine tunes, whatever. And it's Andor. So Cassidy's like, I need a weather report. So she looks a little confused. She's like, what's your location? He's like, in transit. And she's like, and where's our freighter? We've had no word from the relay pilot. And he's like, and you won't be hearing from him. It's just me. I'm calling from the freighter. And so Clay is like, let's start over. What's your location? This is not the ship I was trained to fly. Did you know that? Did anyone know that? He's like, I can't fly the ship. The drop is compromised. I've been upside down for 2 days. Find me someplace safe and dry. And she's like, let me work on that. Keep the signal open. He's like, I need to call home. And she's like, no, don't do that. He's like, come again? She's like, it's very crowded there right now. He's like, what does that mean? She's like, just give me a few minutes. Why can't I call home? And she's like, you won't get through. There's a frequency blockade. What's going on there? And she's like, I don't know, which is why I'm telling you to keep the signal open. And there's like high pitch, like whining. He like hung up. So Andor is in the ship. He takes off. So then it looks like they're having like kind of like chocolate fondue or something at Dedra and Carnes. There's like a pot of something. You dip something in there and you take it out. So she dips and she drips all over. Like and Carnes like it's like you're dripping, and Dedra's like it's fine. So she's just like cuts him up. And Mom apparently didn't hear anything, whatever. So she's going on and on. She mentions, his father wanting adventure and then disappeared one day. And it was just a mother and her delicate boy and the charity of his Uncle Harlow. And he's just like glaring, whatever. I think he says something. And she's like, he's embarrassed. And he's like, about what? And then she's like, doesn't like being called delicate. And he's like, I was just asking if you wanted more sauce. And then to Dedra, she's like, tell me about your family. And Dedra's like, I don't have one. And she's like, huh? And Dedra's like, my parents were criminals and they were arrested when I was 3. I was raised in an imperial kinderblock. And she's like, well, nothing delicate about that, is there? And Dedra's like, we had everything we needed. We didn't know what we were missing. So then at the wedding, Leda and Stecken, I forget what his name is, they're introduced now that they're united, whatever, so cheers, blah, 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 like that. Brasso, Willman, and Bix, they're like packing up, getting ready to take off to go to the other place. At the dinner, Mom is now, she's like banging her spoon on the plate, trying to like mash up whatever it is they're eating. Karn's just like glaring at her. And she says she likes the food. She's like, pleasures of Coruscant. And she talks about Cyril insisting on playing police work in Morlana and how the benefits of life here would become clear by contrast. And he's like, I wasn't playing at anything. And she's like, oh, of course not. The main thing is we're all here together now. And he like scoffs. He gets up. He's like, I'll be right back. And then Mom tells Dedra, it's like, you'll toughen him up. And Dedra, she's like, I have a different plan in mind. And so she's like, but when I say the word plan, that makes it sound optional, which is not the impression you should be taking away. This game ends now. You want Cyril in your life? You will think before you speak. I'll make sure he visits twice a month. I'll make sure he calls you. I will guarantee a level of engagement, but it will be inversely proportional to the volume of anxiety you generate in our lives. And she's like, quite a mouthful. I'm not done. You can spare me the Uncle Harlow testimonials. I've had a look at his ISB criminal files, and that is not a story you want to be advertising. And she's just like, she's like speechless about that. So, it shut her up. And meanwhile, he's actually lying face down on the bed like a child. But then he sits up when he hears like, Mom chuckling, and Dedra's like, apparently I've lost count. He's been promoted twice. Wonderful. More calf? So he gets up and he's like listening by the doorway. She's like, please. He walks back in. Cyril, Dedra was just telling me how well you're doing here. And I told her that came as no surprise to me. And his eyes kind of like flicker to Dedra. Like, what have you done? And he's like, that's interesting. And then Dedra's like, perhaps some more cakes? And he gets up, I guess, to go get them. So it's like all that. How essential is that to the overall Cassian Andor story? I mean, I guess we'll see. I don't know. At the wedding, this big like statue piece of art thing is unveiled. Davo, the groom's father, says it is real, and they like laugh. It's a Chandi Merle or something like that. It's a temple figure, one of 12 that was stolen 25,000 years ago. Until today, there was only 8 of these accounted for, and only 5 that had been made their way back home. So then he announces Luthen Rael. Luthen came to him last year with a rumor that became a possibility, that became an adventure. And he calls the newlyweds. He's like, I gift you this piece of our history. May it bind you to the land and each other. And they're like, Tema. I guess that's like the cheers thing they say. So it's 25,000-year-old statue. There's only 12 of them. And he's giving one to these 2 kids that just got married. I was like, okay. Luthen's, then he's talking to guests, and so it turns out that this guest's father is Chandlerian. This guy was born in Naboo, and his mother's Gorman, which is the other planet that stuff is going to be happening, that the Empire wants to do stuff with the spiders, whatever. And Luthen's like, oh, And the guy's like, it was a scandal. As they're talking, Tay, what is up with this dude? So Tay is Mon's friend who helped them, but then now he's having bad luck with business, whatever. He like bumps into the guy, like purposely. It almost feels like purposely bumps into this guy. He apologizes and he like turns. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And as he walks away, he kind of turns around. It's like, what is that all about? It was like so weird. And then Tay's talking to Mon. They comment on Davo being outspoken, and Tay says that he wish he could learn from that or something like that. But Mon's surprised. He's like that he's spending time with him. And Tay's like, well, we'll talk about it next week on Coruscant. So he says that he has to leave early, and he'll call some person to set up a meeting or whatever. And then he kind of closes his eyes. He leans forward like he's about to say something, and he shakes his head. He's like, no, whatever. And he's like, goodbye. And she walks away. So there's something like, what does he want to tell her? Because he's so hard up for money. He's like, it's like is he going to blackmail them? With the stuff that they're doing in secret. And then Luthen's like kind of walking around. It's time for the first dance, and it's like, oh my gosh! And people are. It's just like it's so much detail that I feel is just so unnecessary. It's just like get to the point, and I feel so weird that I'm saying this. B2 EMO rolls up to Brasso, asks, when was he going to tell him? And he asks, how's Andor going to find him? And Brasso says that, B2 will be up on the hill with Talia. And then like a ship flies overhead. And at first I was like, I thought it was a TIE fighter, but it's not. So Bix is at the radio. Brasso comes in and she says that she keeps hoping that it was Cassian. Brasso says that they should wait until sundown because they're sweeping the far fields and then they'll be coming back. So they could get pinned down there. She says that they got to move, and then he's like, "Where's Will?" And she looks like worried. She's like, "I thought he was with you." And Brasso's like, he's like, his speeder's gone. So Will, the kid, he's with his girlfriend, and they're sitting there with their eyes closed, like forehead to forehead. He's like, "I have to go," and he says that he has, or she's like, "You have to tell me where," and he's like, "It's better that you don't know." And she's like, "Until when?" He's like, "I don't know." He's like, "Until they leave." He's like, "There's just no choice." So they hug, and then she feels something in his pants, and she's like, "Is that her blaster? Are you just happy to see?" No. So he's got a gun there, and then they hear something, they duck. There's a couple Imperial vehicles drive by. They got stormtroopers, big like cannon on there. Will whispers that he left a speeder out front. The leader guy, Cruel, the guy who was like hitting on Bix, the disgusting guy, he's like, "Oh, is your husband here?" Or whatever. He asks the shop lady, "Where's the boss?" or something like that. And she says that he's out, and he says that he wants his men fed and save 2 meals because they'll be back. So Will's girlfriend comes up, and Mom's like, "Get inside." She's like, "I won't tell you again." So she goes in there. Meanwhile, Will's like he's like sprinting through the wheat field, like down a path. Like he's running back because he can't get to the speeder, I guess. Then we see Brasso like booking through the fields on his speeder bike. So I guess she's trying to find Will. Whatever. Mon makes her way to Luthen, and he's like, "You told me he'd stay away from Skulden," the groom's father guy. And he's been pestering him since he arrived. And she's like, "I know." And Luthen's like, "I warned you from the start." And then she's whispering, she's like, "I just can't believe it. I've known him my whole life." And Luthen's like, "People fail. That is our curse. What would happen if I wasn't here? Would you have told me?" And I'm really getting kind of annoyed and tired of Luthen. It's like, I know he's supposed to be like the big rebel, like, spearhead or whatever, but it's just like, shut up, dude. And Mon's like, "I'm meeting him next week." And she's like, yes, I would have told you. It's like, "I'll warn him off, and I'll find out what it takes. I'll get a number." But it's like, they already had this conversation. And Luthen's like, "You know the number." He's like, "We'd be vulnerable forever." It's like, "You need to be protected." And she's like, "I'm not sure what you're saying." And then Luthen's like, "How nice for you." And I was like, wait, I don't know what he's saying. Like, how nice for you? So the crowd cheers. She walks away, and then some kind of like rockin' like dance music plays. There's like this floating droid. It's not quite like a disco ball, but it's like pulsing lights and stuff like that. It's like floats up over them, and then I'm assuming like the young people are dancing and and cheering. Kroll, the creepy Imperial dude, he rides in the back of a vehicle. He's like all kind of smug, sitting there. The TIE Andor exits hyperspace. So it's like, wait, is he headed towards a planet? That doesn't seem like a good idea with all these Imperials, right? Back at the wedding, the dancing's continued. Mon gets pulled onto the dance floor, like one. I don't know if it was her friend, sister, cousin. I can't keep track of anyone. Bix is at the radio because there's like someone's calling. It's Andor. And it's very staticky. You know, she's trying to tune it, whatever. And then she sees Kroll driving up, and he's out there. Hello. It's like, where is everyone? And she's like, they're in the far fields. And then he's like, no sign of your husband. And she's like, he'll be back. And he's like, kind of looking, he's like, looks like you're packing up. And Bix's like, there's an emergency repair in the 800. So he's like, oh, that's a long way to go. There's no one closer. And she's like, it's harvest. Everyone's busy. Brasso, you know, is creeping through the fields close to where I don't know where he's at. I don't know. Wait, I'm trying to think. Is he by the store? I think he might be by the store. He's not by. At first, I thought he was by Bix, but I don't know. He wasn't, I think. But then a stormtrooper like, hold it right there, and then he's like, I got one. Mon, she took a drink, like a shot, and then she like downed it, and then she goes to Trace. She grabs two of them, downs it. So I guess it goes back to what she told her daughter, that she's trying to get drunk. Because the idea, she married her daughter off. She's like so appalled by this. But that's like the tradition. That's how it goes. Kroll enters the shack or whatever, and he hangs his hat on a hook. He looks around, and he's like, looks in the mirror, and he's like, I know you're illegal. We've been counting visas. It's a tough spot for everyone. The councils need the help, or there's no harvest. The help is undocumented. The rules are clear, but the situation requires nuance. It all ends up on me. And she's like, that can't be easy. He's like, it's stressful. I'm always looking for ways to relax. And I'm like, ew, because you know what he's talking about. He's like, my shoulders get sore. And I was like, from what? All you do is stand around. Oh, you're counting visas. Oh, my shoulders hurt from counting visas. Oh my goodness. It's like, go away, loser. And then he's like really close to her. He's like, all the hard work. You must have strong hands. And he rubs his hand over the top of hers, and then like kind of holds it. And I'm just like, ew. This guy's, it's so disgusting. It's so pathetic. Two stormtroopers make Brasso like walk, and officer's like, you're not a local, are you? And to Kel, the shop owner, he's like, he's one of the mechs up the road, isn't he? And Brasso puts his hands down. He's like, you're going to pretend you didn't tell him? And Chuck is like, I'm going to kill you. So wait, Kellen, who was helping him, like, here's an emergency clearance. Like, he ended up calling the Imperials. So is he acting like he's helping him? Then he turns his back on them? Was there a reward or something? So he says he's going to kill him. He charges towards them, but they grab him. Others like aiming their blasters. And Brasso's like, you betraying bastards. Use us up. Turn us in. When he's like, you'll pay for this, Kel. And then he gets hit in the back, like with the rifle, you know, the butt of the rifle. Officer guy goes to Kel. He's like, you're lucky we were here. And Brasso, he's like on his hands and knees. He just glares at Kellen. Bix is like backing away. She like bumps something. It crashes on the floor. And Cruel like, you'll want to think this through. And she's like, please don't, please. And then she's backed against the wall. And she's like, I'm begging you. And he's like, oh, but it's such a simple choice. And he tries kissing her. And she's like, I said no. She like shoves him back, goes to slap him, like slaps him. But she kind of like slaps him like square in the nose. And then, you know, he's bleeding. So he's not going to like that. Back at the wedding, the dancing continues. Mon is dancing, waving her hands. She's got to be drunk now, right? Bix tries running out, but Kroll grabs her and like whips her against the counter. He's like, oh, no, you don't. And then she tries like elbowing him. He's like, hey, calm yourself down. And she like pushes back and she like slams him against the wall. His head like hits like the glass in this like, cabinet and it cracks a little bit. Then he grabs her by the back of the hair. She managed to elbow him in the gut this time, but he still has a grip on her. He flings her against the wall like hard. She crashes down, and then she's like dazed, you know, because like her vision's like kind of blurry. She's just laying there, and then He grabs the legs. He starts dragging her. He's probably dragging her to like cushions or something like that. And then she kind of gets her bearings a little bit. She tries kicking, whatever. Then she manages to kick him. He goes like back a little bit, but he comes back, grabs her, but she got a hold of a wrench, clunk, hits him on the side of the head, big blood on the side of his head. And he kind of buckles down to like a sitting position because, he got his bell rung, basically. He like looks over at her and then he screams. And then the driver of the vehicle is like outside. He hears it and he's like, what's that? Inside, both are breathing heavily. He almost tries going for his blast. I think he's got a gun in his holster. He's like trying to reach it, but he doesn't get it. He yells. He moves towards her. She hits him again with the wrench, and then driver hears He hears yells. So he radios, Unit 2, we have a problem out here. Trouble on site. And the officer and the stormtroopers by the store where Brasso, they hear the call. So then the driver moves towards the structure with his blaster out. He calls out the Kroll. Kroll like staggers, like holding his head. He starts to stumble a bit. He reaches. There's like some metal crates. He kind of reaches, but to balance himself. But his hand kind of misses. He smashes down, like hits his like head, his jaw or something. I get it, and goes down. And then the officer is at the other place. They order a couple to stay with the prisoner, with Brasso. And he's like, the others with him. So the driver calls into the shack. He's like, you got 5 seconds to show your face before I turn the cannon on that shack. And she's yelling. She's like, he tried to rape me. And the driver's like, he's dead. But it's like, how does he know? He smashed his head. He hit his head, but he didn't check a pulse or anything like that. So he's like, step out slowly. And then there's some shooting. The driver ducks. So he turns to shoot back. It's Will. Will got there. So he ran there. He's like shooting at them. And then the driver gets shot in the side by Bix. She's standing in the doorway with like this big blaster. So rape exists in Star Wars, unfortunately. And we'll talk more about that. Still dancing at the wedding party. And I'm like, oh my Lord, this is like the never ending dance. Tay goes to his ride. There's this woman driver. He's like, oh, where's Otto? And she's like, oh, I don't know. She's like, I was called to fill in. I wasn't sure if I'd find you. And then this like party guest woman kind of slows down and stares at them for some reason. I don't know who this woman was. I don't know if she's related to Mon or a friend of Mon or what's going on. And did she recognize the driver? Or like, I don't know what's happening here. Because she like locks eyes with the driver. And then she just turns and walks. The transport with the troopers heading towards the shack. And then suddenly the TIE flies over. And they're like, who called that in? Andor circles around, he targets it, shoots a missile at it, whoosh, big ball of flame. Then back at the store, they see the TIE like shot that car, and they're like shocked, like what's going on? Brasso got up and he started running. Stormtroopers start shooting at him. Brasso manages to hop onto his speeder bike and he's like takes off. Stormtroopers are still shooting. One is actually slowly taking aim. It's like you never see a stormtrooper looking through us like a little scope and about to shoot. Andor circles around, pew, 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 shoots several of them. Then he hits this like silo, and then like there's 3 stormtroopers get like buried by the green. Bix and Will, they see the TIE fighter, and so they figure that it has to be Cassian. Cassian lands, he runs, but it's like, wait, where's Brasso? The speeder, he goes, the speeder's on his side, and Andor like, Brasso, he tries like waking him up, and then he holds him tight. So I guess he didn't make it. He must have got shot by that stormtrooper. Will and Bix, they drive up to the ship. Bix calls out to Andor, but he's not there now because he ran to Brasso. He stands up and looks back. Then he runs to her. They hug, and she's like, what happened? He's like, we need to go. And she's like, we need Brasso. And he like shakes his head. But it's like, I'm pretty sure Will is his kid, right? And Will is like right there. And so then he tells Will to get in. Bix just kind of like stands there. She's like realizing that Brasso's dead. And then Cassian like, pulls her in. At the wedding, Mon is still dancing. The party guesses. We see she's the one that like saw Tay and the other driver. She's like sitting in a hall, like she's like sad or whatever. I don't know. Tay's getting driven away. So Luthen, did he arrange it to have him killed? Brasso lies next to the speeder, so they left him there. The tie takes off. Will's like in a daze. Then it cuts back. The funky wedding music is still playing. It's playing actually like while they're in the cockpit. We still hear it. The Bix is like staring at Cassian. He's just flying. More dancing. Again, never-ending song. Then the music suddenly stops and it just goes black. And I'm like, what the heck? That is like such an abrupt ending. But it's like, okay, they left. Cassian left B2EMO there. And he's like, whatever, I don't care about the droid that cares so much about me. It's like, we're out of here. And that's the end of the episode. So that's why it seems best to end there, because then after that, it's 1 year later. And then like Cassian and Bix are they on Coruscant? I think they're on Coruscant. So I don't know how many we'll do next week. I can try to do 204, 205, 206. I don't know. We'll see. And now the movie feature is Thunderbolts Asterisk, and I really enjoyed it. I would almost I think I loved it. It was it's crazy. I mean, you know me, I'm a sucker for the Marvel movies, and a lot of people are like, everything Marvel sucks since Endgame. I don't agree with that. Some stuff's been a little hit or miss, but even though, everyone wants to complain about She-Hulk for whatever reason, and probably because it's woke or whatever, and I'm just like, man, give me Marvel content. I want more. And the other interesting thing, there are people complaining about everything, because, a lot of people just focus on the hate. They just want to tear it down. I don't know why. And is it because they're so successful and I don't know what it is, but someone posted like all the like unanswered things in the end credits that have been unresolved. But it's like stupid, because one of them, they mentioned like they had an image of Clea and Doctor Strange. That's still going to happen. And then there's like the end of Wakanda Forever. And it's like there's still another Black Panther happening. So it's like people complain when we get too much. We had like too many Marvel movies, too many Marvel Disney Plus shows, and now that they've kind of scaled it back, we're not getting as many movies. They've slowed that down a little bit, and now people are complaining that we're not getting all these answers. Of course, they're setting up all this stuff but. And you're not going to get answers like right away. So I don't know. But with Thunderbolts, so I had a feeling I was going to like it. And I mean, I was kind of rooting for it. Of the two movies, as much as I like Sam Wilson, as much as I like Anthony Mackie, I should say, I was more excited for Thunderbolts than for Captain America. And part of it is Captain America is like, oh, you got the leader. It's like, why? Okay, and then you got Red Hulk. It's like, okay. But with Thunderbolts, it just felt like there's something there. I mean, one, we got Bucky. We got Winter Soldier. He's great. He's a great character, great actor. And we got Yelena. And I feel like the complexities that they've given her, I mean, it's really, really cool that, you got this character. And then, of course, there's a huge part, she's missing her sister, and, just dealing with that. So the ties to Black Widow are very touching, and I really like that. Of course, you have Red Guardian, her dad, and he's just a total goofball. I'm happy to see him again, but I was just like, whatever, so we got Yelena and Bucky, two cool characters. And then, like, who else do we have? We got Taskmaster. I didn't care for this version of Taskmaster because it's not what we had in the comics. But I was like, okay, but at least we have Taskmaster in the movies. Oh, it's kind of cool, okay. And then, they've kind of redeemed things, so we'll see where that goes. And we got Ghost. I really like the actress that plays Ghost. She was in something else, I forget. But, and it's interesting because, she was the villain, but then you find out it's like, oh, she had kind of a rough life, and her, her body's like the structure, integrity, and stuff like that. So it's not really her fault and all that. And then, Yeah, so we Bucky, Elena, Red Guardian. U.S. Agent. So we got him, and Wyatt Russell is he's a good actor, but John Walker, oh my gosh, he sucks, and he was bad in I mean the character is bad. He's a horrible character. He's a horrible. It has nothing. I'm not talking about the performance, but in Captain America and Winter Soldier, or Falcon and Winter Soldier, we see him, and he's not a good guy. He does some bad things. So we have all these not quite savory characters, and you're making a movie about them. It's like that seems like that seems like a weird choice. And again, we got what's her name, contest whatever DeFontaine, Vanette, what is it, Allegra. I just knew. I don't know why I'm blanking on it right now. Yeah, it's like such a weird choice. Like, why, all characters, why do you have these? But what the movie does, and I feel like I'm kind of jumping all over now, they actually make you care. So I find that intriguing. Let's back up a bit. So the movie has like a $180 million budget. So that's kind of a lot. They're at the high end. They're saying, let's see, where was that? It was projected to have a 63 to 77 million opening in the United States, but the target number is like 70 million. So you think it might be like that. It's projected to make 75 million domestically, 160 to 175 million globally on opening weekend. It's apparently not doing so well in China. So I don't know what's up with that. And some people are like, well, maybe it's because, they're not happy with, the U.S. government at the moment, or, who knows what's happening there. And they're also saying that this is the end of Phase 5, which I guess kind of makes sense. As far as Rotten Tomatoes, I'll just jump over to that. Critics right now, it's at an 89%. Audience, 95%. So that's impressive, because everyone's been hating on Marvel lately. Everything Marvel sucks. Blah blah blah. Disney sucks. And so it's great. And like I said, I find it really interesting, and I think maybe because of like how the world is a little questionable. There's a lot of like worrisome things going on, a lot of bad things going on. So it starts off. We see Elena. She's like, I would almost say she's on the verge of being depressed. She misses her sister. She just doesn't have much of a life. She's working for what's her name, DeFontaine, and she's just not really. She's just wandering around aimlessly. She doesn't really have like a strong direction or connection, and she says it's just like, what is she gonna do? Valentina, that's her name. So we have that, and what is happening is Valentina is about to be impeached in her position, because there's some question about what she's doing. Bucky, I don't want to give away too. Well, I won't say the next part, but because Valentina is about to be impeached, she's like trying to get rid of like evidence and stuff like that. So she sends Yelena to this like mountaintop. It's like it's a mile down the mountain. There's like a vault with like stuff, and there's someone there. So when she gets there, like Ghost has entered. So Valentina's like, place the biometrics. Your biometrics have been added, so you can get in. So she goes in. She's following Ghost, but then U.S. agents there. And then Taskmaster's there, and they're like all trying to figure out like what each one is doing there, and end up like fighting each other. So we get the cool fight, and then Bob is there also. So as you're well aware, most likely, Bob Reynolds, Sentry. Why is he there? And he doesn't know why he's there. He's like in his like PJs, or like a whatever. They're trying to figure out what's going on. And basically, I don't know if this is spoiler or not, but they're meant to like take each other out because Valentina is trying to get rid of all the evidence, including them. So what it comes down to, you have these misfits that don't get along. They don't like each other, but then they're going to be forced to work with each other. And is that a little obvious, little formulaic or whatever? Maybe, but I feel like along the way, because even though they're all extremely flawed characters, and that's what makes them a little more interesting, is they're deep down, as crappy as they may be, deep down there is some goodness in them. So that starts to start bubble more towards the surface, and that makes you care a little bit. At the end of the movie, are you so are you gonna care at all about? Are they gonna be your favorite character? Maybe not, but I do feel like your outlook on them may change, and so that's where I applaud the movie. It's just. It does make you. It's like I want to see more of these guys now because I do appreciate what they're doing, or like who they become and everything. So it just becomes a lot of fun. We get a lot of cool fight scenes and just weird moments and that, and so I feel like it was just all handled really well, and it's just like a lot of cool moments and visuals, and yeah. So I just enjoyed the movie, and it does kind of set things forward because, like you see in the trailer or whatever, that Valentina, she bought the Watchtower, from Stark Industries, and so we have the Avengers base there, and but that's the thing, and I think that's what really makes this movie work, is they're not like the wholesome Avengers, because even though if you have like Hawkeye and Black Widow, whatever. And Hulk's questionable things. The Avengers were still more like squeaky clean compared to the Thunderbolts, and you can't put them like on the same pedestal. They're totally different. It's like, how could you ever try to sell the Thunderbolts as like the big time heroes? For the public, and that's what I find interesting about this, because we've had so many Avengers movies and other related movies that this is a little different, because it's not just here's a bunch of heroes, ta-da, yay, applaud for them. So I like that this is definitely coming from a different place. So I thought that was cool. I'm trying to think what else is there to add to this. I do think it's interesting about the Stephen Ewan, that he was supposed to be Bob, and I still think it's crappy that Robert Kirkman spoiled that's who he was playing, because they're talking about, or he was mentioning on a podcast for like Walking Dead or whatever, and he said how Stephen was trying on costumes for Sentry. And then the other's like, are you supposed to say that? And he's like, I don't care. But which is like, that's just, I don't know exactly if that's how it went, but that's like so crappy, because Stephen Ewan would get in huge trouble. And then, coincidentally, he has to back out of the movie because conflicts or something. And is like, really? Maybe he got in trouble. Or maybe they he kind of got troubled, and he's like, well, okay, then I'm just going to, slap me on the wrist and I'm out of here. Whatever. That'll be my punishment, so you don't have to dwell on this anymore. But, he did say he would like to come back and he wants to do something in the Marvel Universe, but we'll see. Stephen Ewan, not Kirkman. So, but I find the guy that plays Bob, he does a good job, I think. At first I was just like, who's this? And I'm not a big Sentry fan either, but I like what they did. I thought it was all really cool. So you should definitely see this movie. Definitely see this movie. I'm like ready to see it again, but I just really enjoyed it. And I hate to say it, I did enjoy this more than Captain America. I liked Captain America, but there's just, this one is just, I felt it was like more fun. And maybe that's the thing, is there is more jokey stuff. And I know some people don't like that, but with Captain America, Captain America: Brave New World felt a little more serious, because there's sort of more at stake. There's kind of, things get a little dark in Thunderbolts, but I don't know. It's it's just felt different. So I'm happy. I'm excited, and you definitely need to see the end credit. There is a mid credit scene, which is that's fun, not essential, but what is essential is the end credit, the post credits, after credits, whatever you want to call it. Stay until the very end. Stay until I was gonna say until they turn the theater lights on, but some theaters may turn them on early to try to get you out. But I feel like they're pretty good. So definitely stay till the very end. It is 100% worth it. And hopefully this podcast has been worth your time. But that's all there is to say. I'm just going to start rambling in circles now. So that is going to be the podcast for the week. So big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the Secret Podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes podcast entertainment every single week. And I just did an off my mind. I think what I'm going to do, I want to go do some Hobgoblin recaps issues, like go back and do. But hopefully I can find like the right issues since it kind of jumps around a bit. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. Okay, so what is going to be next week? So obviously there's going to be more Last of Us, Doctor Who, more Star Wars Andor. How much? I don't know. I'm not really sure about that. So we'll see whether it's 2. I don't know if I can do 3, but we'll see what we can do. The movie for next week is going to be Fight or Flight. I think that's what it's called. Fight or Flight. It's Josh Hartnett, and I hadn't heard about it. I started watching the trailer, and then he ends up it looks fun. He ends up getting there's a bunch of I think assassins on the plane, or they're all targeting something, and he starts fighting. It's almost like Bullet Train, but on a plane. Maybe I actually stopped the trailer once I saw okay, he's fighting this guy. I sold. I don't need to see any more of the trailer. I don't want to see any more. So I'm curious to see that. It's like an hour and I think 37 minutes. So it's not going to dilly-dally. It's going to get to the point, and hopefully it'll be entertaining. And, hopefully this show has been entertaining. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you're doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're doing fun things. And I hope you remember, be good to each other.